Welcome to Cross Naruto. Today we bring you an unforgettable story. What if Naruto was the dream sovereign, the nightmare king Morpheus feared? Naruto x Nyx x Persephone, Percy Jackson, loving our content. Smash that like button and join our family by subscribing. We truly appreciate each and every one of you. Now, let the story begin. Chapter 1, Awakening. The mission was supposed to be simple. Routine, even. Just another S-rank assignment for the hero who'd ended the fourth great ninja war. Nothing Naruto Uzumaki couldn't handle with one hand tied behind his back. At least that's what Kakashi had promised when he'd handed over the scroll. Seriously, it's just checking out some weird chakra readings, the sixth Hokage had said, his visible eye crinkling with that familiar smile. You've been working non-stop. Consider this a vacation. Vacation. Right. Naruto crouched on a moss-covered stone, rain pelting his orange and black jacket as lightning split the sky above an ancient temple hidden deep in the land of Iron's most treacherous mountain range. The structure looked like it predated the Sage of Six Paths himself, all crumbling stone and strange, spiraling symbols that definitely weren't any writing system he recognized. Some vacation, he muttered, pushing soaked blonde hair from his eyes. He'd been tracking the strange energy signature for 3 days. It pulsed like a heartbeat, growing stronger each time he got closer. But it wasn't chakra, not exactly. It felt older. Deeper. Like the natural energy he accessed in Sage mode, but twisted sideways somehow. Alright, let's get this over with, Naruto said to nobody in particular, a habit he'd picked up during his solo missions. After checking for traps, Kakashi would never let him live it down if he got caught in something obvious. He approached the temple entrance. The massive stone doors were covered in more of those strange spiral patterns. As Naruto's fingers brushed against the carvings, they started to glow with a soft blue light. He jerked his hand back, but the glow continued, spreading across the entire door until the pattern was fully illuminated. That's definitely not normal, he whispered as the doors slowly swung open with a groan that seemed to echo across the mountains. Inside, the air felt heavy and electric, like the moment before a massive lightning strike. Water dripped from the ceiling, creating small puddles on the stone floor that rippled with each drop. The temple was a single, circular chamber with a pedestal in its center, illuminated by a shaft of moonlight breaking through a hole in the ceiling. And on that pedestal sat a small, unassuming object, a crystal about the size of his palm, cloudy white with swirls of color that shifted constantly inside its depths. This is what's been causing all those readings. Naruto approached cautiously, every instinct on high alert. He'd faced down Kagaya Otsutsuki, but something about this place made the hairs on his neck stand up. Kurama stirred within him. Kit, something's off about this place, the fox grumbled. It doesn't smell like any chakra I've encountered before. Yeah, I noticed, Naruto replied, still advancing slowly. But we can't just leave without figuring out what it is. The crystal pulsed brighter as he approached, the colors inside swirling faster. Blue, purple, gold, and a deep, midnight black all chased each other through its depths. Against his better judgment, Naruto reached out toward it. Naruto, wait, Kurama started. Too late. His fingers closed around the crystal. The world exploded into light. Naruto felt himself falling through endless space, tumbling through dimensions beyond anything he'd ever experienced. Colors he couldn't name rushed past him. Sounds that weren't quite sounds filled his mind. And through it all, he sensed something ancient and powerful taking notice of him. Then, as suddenly as it began, it stopped. He found himself standing in the same temple, crystal clutched in his hand, but everything felt different. Sharper. Like he'd spent his whole life seeing the world through foggy glass and someone had suddenly wiped it clean. Kurama, he called internally. You okay in there? The fox's rumbling voice came back, but it sounded distant, as if he was speaking from the other end of a long tunnel. That was unexpected. I'm fine, but something's changed. Your chakra feels different. Naruto looked down at the crystal in his hand. The swirling colors had settled into a pattern that reminded him of galaxies and nebulae he'd seen in books, vast spirals of stars against the darkness of space. I should probably get this back to Konoha, he said, tucking the crystal into a secure pocket inside his jacket. Kakashi's gonna want to. A wave of exhaustion hit him like one of Sakura's punches. His knees buckled, and he barely caught himself on the pedestal. Just need to rest a minute, he mumbled, sliding down to sit with his back against the stone. His eyelids felt impossibly heavy. Just a quick nap. Despite all his training and experience that screamed never to fall asleep in an unknown location, Naruto couldn't fight it. His eyes closed, and he plunged into dreams unlike any he'd ever known. He stood atop an endless ocean that reflected perfect stars, though there was no sky above, only more stars, more space, stretching in all directions. Beneath his feet, the water rippled outward with each step he took, sending waves that transformed into landscapes, people, creatures, dreams given form. What is this place? He wondered aloud, his voice echoing strangely. This is the realm between worlds, a voice answered from behind him. The place where dreams are born. Naruto spun around to find a tall, pale man watching him. The stranger wore a flowing robe that seemed to be made from the night sky itself, with stars shifting across its fabric. His eyes were completely black, yet somehow Naruto could see galaxies spinning in their depths. Who are you? Naruto asked, instantly on guard. The man's expression darkened. I am Morpheus, god of dreams. And you are a problem. A problem? Listen, I don't know what this place is or how I got here. I just touched some weird crystal and, the dream stone. Morpheus's voice cut through his explanation like a blade. You found the dream stone and it responded to you. He took a step forward, and the ocean beneath them trembled. Do you have any idea what you've done? Naruto backed up, hands raised defensively. Look, buddy, I was just on a mission. If your fancy rock was so important, maybe you shouldn't have left it sitting around in an abandoned temple. It wasn't abandoned, Morpheus hissed. It was guarded by protections that should have been impenetrable to any mortal. The fact that you could enter at all. The dream god's eyes narrowed as he studied Naruto more carefully. The prophecy. It cannot be. He backed away, genuine fear replacing his anger. The dream sovereign. After all this time. Dream what now? Naruto asked, but Morpheus was already fading from view. This changes everything, the god whispered. If it's truly you, then I must act quickly, before you fully awaken to your power. Hey! Wait! Naruto called, running forward, but his feet splashed through the star ocean, sending ripples that distorted everything around him. What are you talking about? What prophecy? But Morpheus was gone, leaving Naruto alone in the vast dream realm. Or so he thought. He always was prone to dramatics, a new voice said, feminine, deep, and somehow ancient, like the sound of stars burning. Don't take it personally. Morpheus fears any change to the status quo. Naruto turned slowly. Standing a few paces away was a woman who made his breath catch. She was tall and regal, with skin so dark it seemed to absorb light. Her hair flowed around her like liquid night, and when she moved, Naruto caught glimpses of stars and nebulae shifting within it. Her eyes were like silver moons, and she wore a simple gown that seemed to be cut from the fabric of darkness itself. Let me guess, Naruto said, trying to sound casual despite his racing heart, another god. The woman's lips curved into a smile that made the stars around them pulse brighter. Not just any god, young one. I am Nyx, primordial goddess of night. One of the first beings to emerge from chaos when the universe was born. She moved closer, and unlike with Morpheus, Naruto felt no urge to back away. And you are Naruto Uzumaki, the human who has accomplished what was thought impossible. And what's that? He asked, trying to process the fact that he was apparently chatting with some super ancient goddess. You have awakened the power of the Dream Sovereign, she said simply. A position that has remained vacant since the earliest days of creation. Naruto ran a hand through his hair. Look, I don't know what's going on here. I'm just a ninja from Konoha. I don't know anything about being sovereign of, whatever this is. He gestured at the star ocean around them. Nick studied him with those moonlight eyes. Yet the Dream Stone chose you. It has rejected countless beings across millennia, gods, titans, even primordials like myself. But you. She reached out, her fingers stopping just short of his chest. There is something different about your soul. Something unprecedented. Yeah, I get that a lot, Naruto said with a hint of his usual grin. So what exactly does this Dream Sovereign thing mean? And why was that Morpheus guy so freaked out? Nyx began walking across the star ocean, and Naruto fell into step beside her. With each footfall, the dreams beneath their feet rippled outward, forming and reforming. The dream realm exists between all worlds, all realities, she explained. It touches the minds of every sleeping being across the multiverse. The one who rules here, the Dream Sovereign, has the power to shape reality itself through dreams. That sounds intense, Naruto said, thinking of all the times his own dreams had been nothing but ramen and becoming Hokage. Indeed. Which is why Morpheus fears you. He has served as caretaker of dreams since the last sovereign fell, but he is merely a steward. The true power has always eluded him. Her silver eyes slid toward Naruto. Until now, he has been the most powerful entity in the dream realm. Your emergence threatens everything he has built. But I don't want to threaten anyone. I just want to complete my mission and get back to Konoha. Nick stopped walking, turning to face him fully. I'm afraid it's not that simple anymore. The moment you touched the Dream Stone, you began to change. Even now, your essence is merging with the very fabric of the dream realm. Naruto looked down at his hands. They seemed normal enough, but when he concentrated, he could feel something different flowing through him alongside his chakra, something vast and ancient that made even Kurama's power seem small by comparison. So what happens now? He asked. Now, you must learn to control your new abilities before they, and Morpheus, control you. Nyx raised a hand, and the dream realm around them shifted. Suddenly they were standing in what looked like a traditional Japanese garden, complete with a small pond and cherry trees in full bloom. This is a safe corner of the dream realm, one where Morpheus rarely ventures. We can speak more freely here. Naruto sat down on a stone bench, trying to take it all in. So I'm supposed to be some kind of dream god now. I mean, I'm still trying to figure out how to be a good ninja. Nyx's laugh was like wind chimes in the darkness. You misunderstand. The Dream Sovereign isn't a god, it is something beyond gods. Something even the primordials like myself cannot fully comprehend. Great. That's super helpful, Naruto said dryly. What I can tell you is this, the power awakening within you will allow you to not only enter dreams but shape them. At first, it will be small changes, altering details, perhaps visiting the dreams of those you know. But as your power grows, you will be able to affect the waking world through dreams, to move between realities, even to create entire dream worlds that are as real as your own. Naruto whistled. That's a lot. It is indeed. And it is why Morpheus will try to stop you before you fully awaken to these abilities. Nyx's expression turned serious. He has had millennia to prepare for this possibility. He will not surrender his position easily. So he's gonna try to kill me? Perhaps. Or he may attempt to trap you here in the dream realm, or to seal your powers. Nyx looked up at the dream sky above them. But there is something else you should know. The prophecy Morpheus spoke of, it does not merely foretell the rise of a new dream sovereign. Naruto sighed. Of course it doesn't. There's always more to these prophecy things. It speaks of a convergence, a joining of three realms that have long been separate, dream, night, and death. The Dream Sovereign, alongside the Night Mother and the Queen of the Underworld, forming a triumvirate that will reshape the cosmic order. Night Mother, that's you, right? Naruto asked, looking at Nyx. She nodded. And the Queen of the Underworld is Persephone, though how she factors into all this, I cannot say. Our paths rarely cross. Naruto stood up, pacing the garden path. Okay, so I've got dream powers I don't understand, a dream god who wants to stop me, and apparently I'm part of some cosmic three-way alliance that's going to change everything. This is a lot to take in. I understand, Nyx said, her voice softening. But time moves differently here. What feels like hours to us might be mere moments in your world. You have time to adjust. And what if I don't want this? Naruto asked suddenly, facing her. What if I just want to go back to my life? Nyx's expression turned sad. I fear that is no longer possible. The Dream Stone does not choose lightly. It saw something in you, a capacity for this power that no other being has possessed. You may reject the role, but the power is already awakening within you. Without control, it will manifest regardless, potentially with catastrophic consequences. Naruto thought of all the times in his life when power he didn't understand had threatened to overwhelm him, the Nine Tails chakra, Sage Mode, even the Six Paths power. Each time, he'd learned to master it, to make it his own. Fine, he said finally. Teach me what I need to know. But I'm not giving up my life in Konoha. Nyx smiled, and for a moment, Naruto thought he saw something like approval in her ancient eyes. I would expect nothing less from the shinobi who changed the fate of his world. Now, let us begin your first lesson in dreamcraft. She held out her hand, and after only a moment's hesitation, Naruto took it. Naruto's eyes snapped open. He was still in the temple, his back against the cold stone pedestal. Rain continued to pour through the opening in the ceiling, but now moonlight streamed through as well, illuminating the chamber in silver. How long was I out? He mumbled, pushing himself to his feet. About 5 minutes, Kurama's voice rumbled inside him. But it seemed like you were having quite the dream. Naruto reached into his jacket, feeling for the crystal. It was still there, warm against his fingers. It wasn't just a dream, he said. Or maybe it was, but different. He could still feel Nyx's teachings resonating within him, how to sense the boundaries between waking and dreaming, how to focus his new awareness, how to reach out and touch the dreams of others. We need to get back to Konoha, he told Kurama. I've got a feeling things are about to get complicated. Tucking the crystal securely away, Naruto headed for the temple exit. The rain had stopped, and the night sky above was clearer than he'd ever seen it, stars blazing with unusual brightness. For a brief moment, he thought he saw patterns in the starlight that resembled Nyx's face, but he blinked, and it was gone. 3 days later, Naruto was perched on the Hokage monument, looking down at the sleeping village of Konoha. It was well past midnight, and even the most dedicated shinobi had turned in for the night. All except him. Sleep had become complicated. Every time he closed his eyes, he could feel the dream realm calling to him, pulling him deeper into its vast expanse. And with Nyx's teachings fresh in his mind, he found he could do more than just visit, he could see the dreams of others, brushing against them like a leaf on water. The past couple of nights, he'd practiced restraint, limiting himself to simply observing from a distance. But tonight, something felt different. The air itself seemed charged with potential. You feel it too, don't you? He asked Kurama. The fox had been unusually quiet since their return, observing the changes in Naruto with cautious interest. Something's coming, he agreed. The barrier between worlds feels thinner tonight. Naruto nodded, standing up and stretching. Might as well patrol a bit. Not like I'm going to sleep anyway. He leapt from the monument, chakra cushioning his landing on a nearby rooftop. The village was peaceful, streets empty except for the occasional ANBU sentry. Naruto acknowledged them with a nod as he passed, making his way toward the village gates. That's when he felt it, a ripple in reality, like a stone dropped into a still pond. It came from the direction of the training grounds, a pulse of energy that wasn't quite chakra. "That's dream energy," he muttered, changing direction mid-leap. "But it's here. In the waking world." He arrived at training ground 3 to find something impossible. A tear hung in the air, a vertical slash about 7 feet tall that shimmered with the same swirling colors he'd seen inside the dream stone. And through the tear, he could see, somewhere else, a landscape of twisted trees and purple sky, where shadows moved with purpose. What the hell? Naruto approached cautiously, kunai already in hand. Before he could investigate further, something emerged from the tear, a creature that looked like it had been cobbled together from scraps of nightmares. It had too many limbs, all of different shapes and sizes, and its body seemed to shift and flow as if struggling to maintain form in the waking world. Its face, if you could call it that, was a blank mask with a single, vertical eye that leaked black fluid. "Okay, definitely not friendly," Naruto muttered, dropping into a fighting stance. The creature's head swiveled toward him, that vertical eye widening. It let out a sound that wasn't quite a shriek, more like the auditory equivalent of nails on a chalkboard, and lunged. Naruto dodged its first strike, surprised by the creature's speed. One of its arms, a spindly thing ending in what looked like serrated blades, gouged deep into the earth where he'd been standing. Shadow Clone Jutsu. 4 duplicates popped into existence around him, immediately engaging the nightmare creature. But the clone's attack seemed to pass through it, disrupting its form momentarily before it resolidified. Physical attacks weren't going to cut it. "Kurama, any ideas?" Naruto asked, leaping back to avoid another strike. "It's not fully here," the fox observed. "It exists partially in the dream realm still. You need to fight it on both levels." Naruto nodded, understanding instinctively what Kurama meant. He formed a Rasengan in his palm, but instead of charging it with just chakra, he drew on that new energy he'd felt since touching the dream stone. The Rasengan changed, its usual blue glow taking on swirls of midnight black and starlight silver. When he slammed it into the nightmare creature's chest, the effect was immediate and devastating. The creature didn't just take damage, it unraveled, coming apart like a sweater with a loose thread. It let out one final, discordant shriek before collapsing into wisps of dark energy that dissipated in the night air. But the tear remained, and now Naruto could hear more movement from the other side. "That's not good," he said, preparing another dream-infused Rasengan. "If more of these things come through." Before he could finish the thought, a familiar voice spoke from behind him. "Using your new powers already, I see." Naruto spun to find Morpheus standing there, looking exactly as he had in the dream realm, pale skin, night sky robes, and those unsettling black eyes with galaxies swirling in their depths. But here, in the waking world, he seemed less substantial, almost translucent around the edges. "You," Naruto said, not lowering his guard. "Did you create that thing? Open this tear." Morpheus smiled thinly. "A demonstration, let's call it. To show you what happens when the barriers between realms are weakened." He gestured at the tear. "This is but a taste of what's to come if you continue down this path." "What path?" "I'm just trying to figure out what's happening to me." "You're disrupting the natural order," Morpheus said coldly. "Your mere existence as an awakening dream sovereign sends ripples across all realms. These tears will only multiply. Nightmare creatures will pour into your world, feeding on the fears and dreams of mortals." Naruto stepped toward him. "Then help me stop it. If you know so much about all this, tell me how to close these tears." "Oh, there's a simple solution." Morpheus raised his hand, and dark energy began to gather around his fingers. "Remove the source of the disruption." He thrust his hand forward, sending a blast of dream energy straight at Naruto's chest. Naruto barely had time to throw up a defense, crossing his arms and channeling both chakra and dream energy to form a barrier. The blast hit him full force, sending him sliding backward, but his shield held. Is that all you've got? Naruto taunted, straightening up. I've taken worse hits from academy students. Morpheus's expression darkened. You have no idea what you're dealing with, mortal. I am the god of dreams, master of nightmares. I have walked the mindscapes of beings whose power dwarfs your comprehension. Yeah. Naruto formed the cross sign with his fingers. Shadow Clone Jutsu. This time, dozens of clones appeared, each channeling dream energy alongside their chakra. They surrounded Morpheus, attacking from all angles. The dream god was fast, dissolving into mist to avoid their strikes, reforming elsewhere to counterattack. But Naruto noticed something. Each time Morpheus used his powers, he seemed to become more substantial, more anchored to the physical world. He's not fully here, Naruto realized. Just like that creature. Acting on instinct, Naruto closed his eyes for a split second, reaching out with his new senses. He could feel Morpheus now, existing in both realms simultaneously, a foot in both worlds, but master of neither in this state. Gotcha, Naruto said, eyes snapping open. He formed a new Rasengan, but this time, instead of infusing it with dream energy, he did something different. He shaped the Rasengan to create a spiraling vortex that mimicked the patterns he'd seen in the Dream Stone. When he slammed this new jutsu into the ground at Morpheus's feet, reality itself seemed to bend. The dream god let out a surprised shout as he was pulled fully into the physical world, his translucent form suddenly solid. What have you done? Morpheus demanded, looking down at his now corporeal hands with shock. Anchored you, Naruto said with a grin. Now let's see how you handle a real fight. Before Morpheus could recover, Naruto was on him, landing a solid punch to the god's jaw that sent him tumbling backward. The dream god might have cosmic powers, but in a physical fight, he was clearly outmatched. Morpheus wiped a trickle of golden ichor from his lip, his expression morphing from shock to rage. This changes nothing. You think because you can land a blow that you've won? I have existed for eons, shaped the dreams of gods and monsters. You are nothing but a momentary spark in the darkness. He raised both hands, and the tier behind them widened dramatically. More nightmare creatures began to pour through, dozens of them, each more grotesque than the last. Let's see how well you fight when your precious village is overrun, Morpheus snarled. The creatures scattered, heading toward Konoha. No. Naruto created more shadow clones, sending them after the nightmares, but there were too many, moving too quickly. You have a choice, Dream Sovereign, Morpheus said, already beginning to fade back into immateriality. Chase my nightmares and save your people, or pursue me. You cannot do both. Naruto growled in frustration, but it wasn't really a choice. He turned away from Morpheus, racing after the nightmare creatures with his clones. This isn't over, he called over his shoulder. No, Morpheus agreed, his form almost completely transparent now. It has only just begun. By the time Naruto had dispatched the last of the nightmare creatures, a particularly nasty one that had made it all the way to the hospital, Morpheus was long gone. The tear had closed, but Naruto could feel others forming around the village, smaller but no less dangerous. Dawn was approaching as he stood atop the Hokage Tower, surveying the village for any signs of remaining nightmares. His body ached from the night's battles, but his mind was racing faster than ever. What am I going to tell Kakashi? He wondered aloud. Hey, so that mission you sent me on. Turns out I'm some kind of dream god now, and there's this other dream god who wants to kill me, and oh yeah, nightmare monsters are invading the village. Perhaps I can help with that explanation, a familiar voice said. Naruto turned to find Nyx standing behind him. In the waking world, she had dimmed her radiance somewhat, appearing more human, still inhumanly beautiful, but less overtly divine. Her dark skin now had a warm, earthly tone, and her starry hair was pulled back in elaborate braids. She wore modern clothes, a simple black dress that hugged her tall frame. Nyx, Naruto said, relief evident in his voice. How are you here? I thought you were bound to the dream realm. The night touches all worlds, she said simply. And as you've seen with Morpheus, gods can manifest in the physical realm under certain conditions. She moved to stand beside him, looking out over Konoha. Your world is quaint. But I see why you fight for it. Morpheus sent nightmare creatures into the village, Naruto told her. He said it's just the beginning, that my existence as the Dream Sovereign is causing tears between realms. Nyx nodded gravely. He is not entirely wrong, though his methods are questionable. Your awakening power is disrupting the established order. Until you learn to control it fully, such incidents may continue. Great. Naruto ran a hand through his hair. So how do I control it fully? You gave me the basics, but this is happening faster than I thought. Morpheus has forced the issue, she agreed. He fears what you represent, change, a new order, perhaps even his own obsolescence. She turned to face Naruto fully. I can teach you more, but it will require time. And in the meantime, your village remains vulnerable. Naruto's expression hardened with determination. Then we'll have to work fast. I'm not letting anyone in Konoha get hurt because of me. Nyx smiled, and Naruto was struck again by her otherworldly beauty. Your concern for others is refreshing. Most beings who acquire great power think first of what they can gain from it. Yeah, well, that's not my style, Naruto said with a shrug. So what's the first step? First, we must secure this village against further incursions. Nyx raised her hand, and darkness seemed to gather around her fingers, not an oppressive darkness, but something protective, like a blanket drawn over a sleeping child. I can create a temporary barrier that will make it more difficult for dream entities to cross over. But it will only last until the next new moon. That gives us about 2 weeks, Naruto calculated. What happens after that? By then, you must be able to establish your own protections, Nyx said. Or find a more permanent solution to the tears. She moved her hand in a complex pattern, and darkness flowed out from her in all directions, spreading over Konoha like a transparent dome. Where it passed, the air seemed to thicken slightly, taking on a subtle shimmer visible only if you knew to look for it. It is done, she said, lowering her hand. Now, for your next lesson, hold that thought, Naruto interrupted, sensing multiple chakra signatures approaching rapidly. We're about to have company. Seconds later, 4 ANBU agents landed on the roof around them, weapons drawn. Behind them came Kakashi, looking rumpled and concerned. Naruto, the 6th Hokage said, visible eye taking in both his former student and the goddess beside him. Care to explain the reports of strange creatures attacking the village in the middle of the night? And who might this be? Naruto exchanged a glance with Nyx, who gave him an encouraging nod. It's a long story, Kakashi-sensei, he said, reaching into his jacket to pull out the dream stone. But it starts with this. By mid-morning, Naruto had given Kakashi the condensed version of events, finding the dream stone, his dreams of Nyx and Morpheus, the nightmare attack, and his apparent new status as the prophesied Dream Sovereign. He left out some details, particularly about the prophecy involving Nyx and this Persephone person, focusing instead on the immediate threat. So these tears between realms, Kakashi said, rubbing his masked chin thoughtfully. They were in the Hokage's office, with Nyx seated calmly in a chair while Naruto paced. They're going to keep appearing unless you master these new powers. That's the gist of it, Naruto confirmed. Nyx's barrier will hold for a couple weeks, but after that. He trailed off, looking to the goddess. After that, the Dream Sovereign must either establish his own protections or close the tears permanently, she finished. Neither is a simple task. Kakashi studied Nyx with his usual measured gaze. And you're a goddess from another pantheon entirely? One that has nothing to do with the shinobi world? She inclined her head. The primordial realms touch all worlds, Lord Hokage. Your people have simply forgotten the old ways, focusing instead on chakra and the powers it grants. But beneath all things lies the foundation of creation, chaos, night, dream, death. These forces existed before your world formed and will remain when it is gone. Cheerful thought, Kakashi muttered. He turned back to Naruto. What do you need from us? The question caught Naruto by surprise. He'd been expecting skepticism, maybe even orders to hand over the Dreamstone for study. You believe all this? Kakashi's eye crinkled with his hidden smile. Naruto, I've seen you turn into a giant fox, fight the reincarnation of the mother of all chakra, and save the world multiple times. At this point, if you told me you were secretly a teapot, I'd just ask if you preferred sugar or honey. Despite everything, Naruto laughed. Fair enough. So I'll ask again, what do you need? Naruto thought for a moment. Cover for me with the village. I need time to train with Nyx, to learn how to control these powers. And maybe have some teams ready in case more nightmare things show up. Done, Kakashi said immediately. Anything else? Naruto hesitated, then, there's something else you should know. Morpheus, the dream god I fought. He's not just angry that I'm stepping on his territory. He's scared of me, of what I represent. There's some kind of prophecy about the dream sovereign changing everything. Prophecies, Kakashi sighed. Why is it always prophecies with you? Trust me, I'm not thrilled about it either, Naruto said. But the point is, he's not going to stop coming after me. And he might target people I care about to get to me. Kakashi's expression turned serious. I'll increase security around the village, especially for our friends. Sakura, Hinata, Shikamaru, and the others, they'll all have ANBU shadows. Thank you, Naruto said, genuine relief in his voice. Now, Nyx interrupted, rising gracefully to her feet, we must continue your training, Dream Sovereign. Time grows short, and there is much to learn. Naruto nodded. Right. We'll probably be at my apartment or one of the training grounds. I'll send a clone if anything changes. As they left the Hokage Tower, Nyx walking beside him with regal grace that drew stares from everyone they passed, Naruto couldn't shake the feeling that his life had just changed irrevocably. Again. So, he said as they made their way through the village, what's next in Dream Sovereign 101? Now, Nyx said, a hint of excitement in her ancient eyes, you learn to walk between worlds. For the next 3 days, Naruto trained with Nyx almost constantly. In the waking world, they used his apartment as a base, converting his living room into what Nyx called a dream anchor, a physical space that mirrored a location in the dream realm, making transition between the two easier. The training was unlike anything Naruto had experienced before. It wasn't about chakra control or combat techniques, but about perception, learning to see the layers of reality that most humans never noticed. All worlds are connected through the dream, Nyx explained as they sat cross-legged in his living room, candles burning with strange blue flames around them. When mortals sleep, their consciousness naturally drifts into the dream realm, but they have no control, no awareness. You must learn to move deliberately, to maintain your sense of self across the boundaries. Naruto, who had always been a physical learner rather than a theoretical one, found it challenging but not impossible. His experience with Sage Mode had taught him to sense natural energy, this wasn't so different, just bigger. On the 4th night after Morpheus's attack, Naruto was meditating in the dream anchor when he felt something, a faint tugging sensation, like someone calling his name from far away. Do you feel that? He asked Nyx, who sat across from him, her eyes closed in her own meditation. Yes, she said without opening her eyes. Someone is dreaming of you. Intensely. Naruto concentrated on the sensation, trying to identify it as Nyx had taught him. It feels familiar. Warm. Like Hinata. Nyx's eyes opened, silver light gleaming in their depths. Your friend with the pale eyes? Yes, that matches the essence I sense. She's having a nightmare, Naruto realized, the feeling becoming clearer. Something's wrong. Without thinking, he reached for the connection, using the techniques Nyx had shown him to follow the thread linking him to Hinata's dream. The world around him blurred, colors running together like watercolors in rain, and then, he stood in the ruins of Konoha. Buildings lay shattered around him, smoke rising from still-burning fires. The sky above was crimson, like blood spilled across the heavens. And in the center of it all stood Hinata, alone and terrified, facing a shadowy figure that Naruto recognized instantly. "Morpheus," he growled. The dream god turned, his black eyes widening slightly in surprise. The sovereign himself. How unexpected. His form seemed to waver, becoming more substantial as he focused on Naruto. "I was just introducing myself to your friend here." Hinata spun around, her pale eyes finding Naruto. "Naruto-kun. What's happening? Who is he?" "It's okay, Hinata," Naruto said, moving to stand between her and Morpheus. "This is just a dream. He can't hurt you." "Can't I?" Morpheus smiled coldly. "Dreams can harm in ways far more lasting than physical wounds, Sovereign. Surely your new mentor has taught you that much." He raised a hand, and the dreamscape around them shifted. Suddenly they were surrounded by the bodies of their friends, Sakura, Shikamaru, Kiba, all lying broken and bloody on the ground. Hinata gasped, her hands flying to her mouth. "This isn't real," Naruto said firmly, taking her hand. "He's manipulating your dream, trying to scare you." "Real is such a limited concept," Morpheus said, circling them like a predator. "What is real to the dreamer while they sleep? Only the dream itself." He stopped, fixing his gaze on Hinata. "Tell me, girl, can you truly be certain you're dreaming? What if this is a premonition of what's to come? What if your precious Naruto's new powers bring destruction to everything you love?" Naruto felt Hinata's hand tremble in his. "Don't listen to him," he told her. "He's trying to get to me through you." "Am I?" Morpheus laughed, the sound echoing unnaturally across the dreamscape. "Or am I simply showing her the truth that you're too afraid to admit? The Dream Sovereign's awakening has consequences, Naruto Uzumaki. The tears between realms are just the beginning. If that's true, then help me fix it." Naruto shouted. "Instead of attacking my friends, help me learn to control these powers." "Control?" Morpheus's expression darkened. "You speak of controlling forces beyond your comprehension. The dream realm is not some jutsu to be mastered with practice. It is the foundation of reality itself." While they argued, Naruto noticed Hinata watching him intently, her initial fear giving way to determination. She squeezed his hand, and he felt something pass between them, confidence, support. "Naruto-kun has mastered every power he's ever encountered," Hinata said, her voice steady despite the nightmarish surroundings. "He controlled the Nine Tails when everyone said it was impossible. He mastered Sage Mode faster than anyone in history. If anyone can handle being this Dream Sovereign, it's him." Morpheus turned his gaze on her, and for a moment, Naruto feared the dream god would lash out. But instead, he looked, intrigued. "Such faith," he mused. "Even in a nightmare of my creation, your belief in him doesn't waver." He studied Hinata with new interest. "Perhaps there is more to these humans than I thought." The dreamscape around them began to stabilize, the bodies disappearing, though the ruined Konoha remained. "Consider this a warning, Sovereign," Morpheus said, his attention back on Naruto. "Your friends are vulnerable in their dreams. I cannot reach them directly while the Night Mother's barrier holds, but when they sleep, their minds wander into my domain. Stay away from them," Naruto said, his voice low and dangerous. "This is between you and me." "Is it?" Morpheus began to fade, his form becoming transparent. "The prophecy speaks of more than just you, Sovereign. The triumvirate that will reshape creation. Night, dream, and death in perfect balance." His eyes flicked to Hinata. "I wonder what role your precious people will play when the Queen of the Underworld makes her entrance." With those ominous words, he vanished completely, leaving Naruto and Hinata alone in the dream Konoha. "Naruto-kun, Hinata said softly, "What's happening to you?" "Who was that?" Naruto sighed, suddenly aware of how little he'd told his friends about his new situation. "It's complicated, Hinata. But I promise, I'll explain everything." He looked around at the dreamscape. "Right now, though, we need to get you out of this nightmare." "How do we do that?" Naruto smiled, feeling more confident in his new abilities than he had before. "Like this." He focused on the dream energy around them, shaping it with his will as Nyx had taught him. The ruined Konoha wavered, then dissolved, replaced by one of Hinata's favorite places, the garden behind the Hyuga compound, where sunflowers grew in neat rows. Hinata's eyes widened as the dreamscape transformed. "You did this?" "Yeah," Naruto said, not bothering to hide his pride. "Cool, right? It's part of the new abilities I've been developing." He sat down on a stone bench, patting the spot beside him. "I should have told you and the others sooner, but it's been happening so fast." Hinata sat next to him, her dream self wearing the comfortable outfit she usually trained in. "Tell me now," she said simply. So he did. He explained about the mission, finding the dream stone, meeting Nyx and Morpheus, and learning about his destiny as the dream sovereign. He told her about the nightmare creatures that had attacked Konoha and the barrier Nyx had created to protect the village temporarily. Throughout it all, Hinata listened without interruption, her expression shifting from surprise to concern to determination. "So that's why you've been so busy lately," she said when he finished. "We've all been worried. Sakura thought maybe you were sick and not telling anyone." Naruto rubbed the back of his neck. "Sorry about that. I was trying to get a handle on things before I dragged anyone else into this mess." "Naruto-kun," Hinata said gently, "how many times do we have to remind you? Your friends want to help you carry your burdens, not be protected from them." Before Naruto could respond, the dreamscape around them flickered, sunlight dimming momentarily. "What was that?" Hinata asked. "You're starting to wake up," Naruto explained. "Dreams get unstable when the dreamer is close to consciousness." Hinata looked disappointed. "But there's still so much I want to ask you." "We'll talk more in the waking world," Naruto promised. "I'll come see you tomorrow and explain everything to you and the others." He hesitated, then added, "Just, be careful in your dreams for now. Until I figure out how to protect everyone from Morpheus." She nodded, then surprised him by leaning forward and kissing his cheek. "Be careful, Naruto-kun. Even you can't fight a god alone." The dreamscape dissolved around them as Hinata woke up, and Naruto found himself back in his apartment, sitting across from Nyx. "You did well," the goddess said, approval in her voice. "Navigating another's dream and reshaping it, these are not beginner skills." "Morpheus was there," Naruto told her. "He's targeting my friends through their dreams." Nyx's expression darkened. "That is, concerning. My barrier prevents him from physically entering your world, but dreams are his domain. I cannot block him from those without blocking all dreams entirely." "Then I need to learn how to protect my friends in their dreams," Naruto said firmly. "Such protections are complex," Nyx warned. "It took me centuries to perfect my own dream wards." "Then we better get started," Naruto said, determination written across his features. "Because I'm not letting Morpheus hurt anyone else." The next morning, Naruto called a meeting of his closest friends at Ichiraku Ramen. He'd asked Tucci for privacy, and the kind shop owner had agreed to close for an hour to give them the space they needed. Sakura arrived first, followed by Shikamaru and Choji. Hinata came with Kiba and Shino, while Ino, Sai, and Lee completed the group. They sat around the expanded counter, bowls of ramen steaming in front of them as Naruto prepared to explain. "So what's this big emergency meeting about?" Kiba asked, already halfway through his bowl. "Some new mission?" "Not exactly," Naruto said, glancing at Hinata, who gave him an encouraging nod. "It's about what happened on my last mission, and everything that's happened since." He told them the whole story, finding the dream stone, his encounters with Morpheus and Nyx, learning about his role as the Dream Sovereign, and the threat of nightmare creatures invading their world. That's why Kakashi-sensei has had ANBU following all of you, he concluded. Morpheus might target you to get to me. There was a long moment of silence as his friends processed this information. Then, only you, Sakura sighed, shaking her head. Only you could go on a routine mission and come back as some kind of dream god. Troublesome, Shikamaru muttered, but his sharp eyes were calculating. So these tears between realms, they're appearing because your powers are still unstable? Naruto nodded. That's what Nyx says. Once I master everything, I should be able to close them permanently. But until then, we need to be on guard, Shino finished. Why? Because dream creatures may continue to invade our reality. And this Morpheus guy, Kiba added, he's gunning for you because of some prophecy. Yeah. Something about me, Nyx, and someone called Persephone forming a triumvirate that will change everything. Naruto shrugged. To be honest, I'm not sure I believe all that. I just want to protect the village and figure out these new powers. Where is this goddess now? Ino asked, looking around as if expecting Nyx to materialize. She's resting, Naruto explained. Maintaining her form in our world takes a lot of energy, especially while holding up the barrier around Konoha. Lee slammed his fist on the counter, making the ramen bowls jump. This is most youthful. Naruto-kun, becoming a divine being to protect us all. I'm not divine, Naruto protested. I'm just, different now. You've always been different, Sakura said with a fond smile. This is just the newest version. Hinata, who had been quiet throughout, finally spoke up. Naruto-kun visited my dream last night, when Morpheus was trying to turn it into a nightmare. She looked at the others seriously. What he's telling you is real. I saw it myself. So what do you need from us? Shikamaru asked, cutting to the heart of the matter. Naruto straightened, relieved that his friends were taking this seriously. First, be careful when you sleep. Morpheus can't physically enter Konoha right now, but he can reach your dreams. If you notice anything strange, call out for me. I'm learning how to hear when people call my name in dreams. And in the waking world? Sai asked. Keep an eye out for tears, they look like rips in the air with swirling colors inside. If you see one, don't approach it. Alert the ANBU and send word to me immediately. Shikamaru was tapping his fingers on the counter, already strategizing. We should establish a rotation, especially at night when these dream creatures are more likely to appear. I'll work with Kakashi-sensei to coordinate with the ANBU. I can develop specialized medical protocols, Sakura offered. If these creatures can hurt people in ways we're not familiar with, we need to be prepared. One by one, his friends volunteered their help. Hinata and Niji would use their Byakugan to search for tears, Shino would deploy his insects as an early warning system, Ino would use her mind techniques to help those affected by nightmares. As Naruto listened to them plan, a warm feeling spread through his chest. This was what had always made him strong, not just his own determination, but the bonds he shared with these people. Thanks, everyone, he said when they finished. I knew I could count on you. Always, Hinata said softly, and the others nodded in agreement. As they left Ichiraku, returning to their duties with new awareness of the threat they faced, Naruto felt both grateful and worried. He'd gained their support, but he'd also painted targets on their backs. If something happened to any of them because of his new role. They're strong, a voice said beside him. Nyx had appeared, looking refreshed after her rest, once again disguised in her more human form. Your friends. I see why you value them. They're the best, Naruto agreed. But I'm still putting them in danger. Perhaps, Nyx acknowledged. But they choose to stand with you, knowing the risks. That is the nature of true bonds, they strengthen both parties, even in the face of great peril. Naruto looked at her curiously. Do gods have friends like that? Something like sadness passed across Nyx's timeless features. Not as mortals do. Immortality changes the nature of relationships. When you live for eons, even the deepest connections can fade, transform into something unrecognizable. Sounds lonely, Naruto observed. Nyx's silver eyes met his. It can be. Which is why many gods seek out mortals, not just for worship or amusement, but for the intensity of feeling that immortals often lose over time. She smiled faintly. Your kind burns so brightly, lives so fully in each moment. It's refreshing to witness. Before Naruto could respond to this unexpectedly personal insight, he felt something, a faint tremor in reality, like the vibration from a distant explosion. Did you feel that? He asked, looking around. Nyx nodded, her expression turning grave. A tear is forming. A large one, beyond my barrier. Where? She closed her eyes, concentrating. The mountains to the east. The same place you found the dream stone. Naruto's eyes widened. The temple. Morpheus is going back to the source. Not just Morpheus, Nyx said, opening her eyes. I sense something else. Something ancient. We need to get there, Naruto said. Now. Nyx held out her hand. Then let us travel as gods do. When Naruto took her hand, darkness enveloped them both, not frightening, but cool and comforting, like diving into a deep pool on a hot day. He felt them moving impossibly fast, crossing miles in heartbeats. When the darkness receded, they stood before the ancient temple where everything had begun. But it was transformed. The entire structure glowed with pulsing light, and floating above it was a tear unlike any Naruto had seen before, a massive, swirling vortex of colors and energies that distorted the very air around it. And standing before the tear, arms raised as if in welcome, was Morpheus. You're too late, Sovereign, the dream god called as he sensed their arrival. The convergence has begun. What have you done? Nyx demanded, her disguise falling away as her true divine form manifested, taller, darker, wrapped in the very essence of night itself. What was necessary, Morpheus replied. If the triumvirate is to form, then let it form now, on my terms. He gestured to the tear. I've called her. The queen of the underworld approaches. Naruto stepped forward, feeling the power of the dream stone resonating within him. You're forcing the prophecy? After everything you did to try to stop it? Morpheus laughed, the sound echoing strangely through the tear. Stop it? Foolish sovereign. I never sought to stop the prophecy, merely to control its fulfillment. And now, the third member of your triumvirate arrives. From within the tear, a figure began to emerge, a woman of breathtaking beauty, with pale skin and hair the color of spring wheat. She wore a gown that seemed to be woven from living plants, flowers blooming and fading with each step she took. Her eyes were the green of new leaves, but they held the wisdom of ages. Persephone, Nyx breathed. The queen of the underworld stepped fully into their world, the tear closing behind her. She looked around with curious eyes, taking in Nyx, Morpheus, and finally Naruto. So, she said, her voice like the first warm breeze after winter, this is the dream sovereign I've heard so much about. She approached Naruto, studying him with those ancient green eyes. Younger than I expected. Don't let his appearance fool you, Morpheus said. He's already begun to master powers that should have taken centuries to develop. Persephone smiled, and flowers bloomed at her feet. Good. We'll need that strength for what's coming. And what exactly is coming? Naruto asked, looking between the three gods. What's this prophecy everyone keeps talking about but nobody will explain? Persephone's smile faded. The end of the old order. The birth of something new. She turned to Morpheus. You should have told him everything from the beginning. Would he have believed me? The dream god countered. Enough, Nyx interrupted. What matters now is that the triumvirate has been assembled, whether we were ready or not. She fixed Morpheus with a steely gaze. But your methods were reckless. The tear you created to bring Persephone here has weakened the barriers further. Already I can sense more nightmare creatures slipping through smaller tiers across this realm. Morpheus shrugged, unapologetic. A necessary risk. The convergence was inevitable, better to control the circumstances than to let chaos decide. Wait, Naruto said, his patience wearing thin. Will someone please tell me what's going on? What's this convergence? Why did you bring Persephone here if you're so worried about the prophecy? The three gods exchanged glances, and it was Persephone who finally answered. The prophecy speaks of the dream sovereign arising to unite the three foundational realms, dream, night, and death. When these realms converge under the triumvirate's guidance, a new cosmic order will emerge. She gestured to herself, Nyx, and Naruto. We three represent those forces. Together, we have the power to reshape reality itself. But such power comes at a price, Morpheus added. The convergence will destroy the old barriers between realms. For a time, chaos will reign as the multiverse reorders itself. And that's why you tried to stop me, Naruto realized. You were afraid of the chaos. Morpheus's expression turned complex, part frustration, part admiration. I was afraid of an untrained mortal holding the key to such power. I thought to delay the prophecy, to prepare for its eventual fulfillment. But when you found the dream stone and it accepted you. He shook his head. I had to adapt my plans. By sending nightmare creatures to attack my village? Naruto asked incredulously. By testing you, Morpheus corrected. By forcing you to develop your powers quickly. And by bringing Persephone here to complete the triumvirate before the random tiers become too numerous to control. Nyx moved to stand beside Naruto. What Morpheus isn't telling you is that he hopes to guide the convergence in his favor, to ensure his continued relevance in the new order. Is that so wrong? Morpheus demanded. I have shepherded dreams since the dawn of consciousness. Am I to simply step aside and watch as everything I've built is dismantled? No one is asking you to step aside, Persephone said gently. But the prophecy is clear, the triumvirate will lead the convergence. Your role is to support, not to control. Before Morpheus could respond, Naruto felt another tremor, stronger this time, shaking the very ground beneath their feet. What was that? He asked, looking around. All three gods tensed, their attention turning eastward. Something is coming, Nyx said, her voice tight. Something from beyond the dream realm. Morpheus's face paled. No. It's too soon. The convergence has barely begun. What's too soon? Naruto demanded. What's coming? The void, Persephone whispered, a note of genuine fear in her voice. The emptiness that exists beyond all realms. When barriers weaken, it seeks to enter, to consume. And it's found the tears you created, Nyx said to Morpheus, accusation in her tone. The dream god didn't deny it. We need to move. Now. If the void enters this realm fully, even the triumvirate may not be enough to stop it. Naruto looked between the three gods, seeing real concern in their ancient eyes. Whatever this void was, it clearly terrified even them. Then let's go, he said, determination filling him. My friends, my village, they're all in danger. We need to protect them. Persephone studied him with new respect. The dream sovereign thinks first of others, even in the face of cosmic threats. Perhaps the prophecy chose better than we realized. Save the admiration for later, Morpheus said tersely. We need to reach Konoha before the void does. Nyx raised her hands, darkness gathering around the four of them. Hold tight, she warned. This journey will be turbulent. As darkness enveloped them again, Naruto felt the world spinning around him. But through it all, one thought remained clear in his mind: no matter what cosmic threats were coming, no matter what destiny awaited him as the dream sovereign, his first priority would always be the same: protecting the people he loved. The convergence had begun, and nothing would ever be the same again. Chapter 2, Convergence. The darkness parted like a curtain, and Naruto stumbled onto solid ground. His head spun from the divine travel method, way more disorienting than even the flying thunder god technique he'd seen in action. Okay, that was intense, he muttered, steadying himself. They'd arrived at the outskirts of Konoha. The village appeared peaceful in the gathering dusk, lights flickering on in windows as people settled in for the evening. But Naruto immediately sensed something wrong. The air felt thick, charged with an energy that made his skin crawl. "The void approaches," Morpheus said, his normally composed face tight with concern. "I can feel it probing the barriers between realms." Nyx pointed toward the Hokage monument. "There, the first incursion." Naruto squinted, then gasped. Above the stone faces of the Hokage, reality itself seemed to be unraveling. Not like the colorful tears he'd seen before, but something worse, a patch of absolute nothingness, like someone had erased a piece of the world. "What the hell is that?" he demanded. "The void," Persephone said quietly. "The absence of all things. It exists beyond creation itself, always seeking entry, always hungry for what exists. And it's found a way in," Morpheus added grimly. "Through the weakened barriers." Naruto didn't wait for more explanations. He formed his familiar cross seal. Shadow Clone Jutsu. Dozens of clones popped into existence, immediately spreading throughout the village. "Evacuate everyone near the monument," he ordered. "Get civilians to the shelters." The three gods watched with interest as his clones leapt into action. "Efficient," Nyx commented. "Your mortal techniques complement your sovereign powers." "Yeah, well, I was a ninja before I was whatever this is," Naruto replied, already moving toward the threat. "So what stops this void thing?" The three gods exchanged glances. "Existence," Persephone finally said. "The void cannot consume what fully embraces its own reality. The three fundamental forces we represent, dream, night, and death, can create a barrier it cannot cross." "Great," Naruto said, picking up speed. "So we just need to, what, stand in a circle and hold hands?" Morpheus snorted. "If only it were so simple. The triumvirate must channel their powers in perfect harmony, something that typically takes centuries of practice." "We don't have centuries," Naruto shot back. "We've got minutes." They reached the base of the monument as the void tier expanded, now the size of a small house. ANBU were already evacuating the area, and Naruto spotted Kakashi directing operations with characteristic calm efficiency. "Naruto," the sixth Hokage called when he spotted them. "I'm guessing this isn't a normal Tuesday for you either." "Not exactly," Naruto replied, gesturing to his divine companions. "The short version, that's the void. It wants to eat our reality, and we need to stop it." Kakashi's visible eye took in the three gods without so much as a blink of surprise. "Always bringing interesting friends to village gatherings. What do you need from us?" "Keep everyone back," Naruto said. "This is gonna get weird." He turned to the three gods. "So how do we do this harmony thing?" Before anyone could answer, the void tier pulsed, expanding dramatically. As it did, something began to emerge, or perhaps it was more accurate to say that something began to form from the nothingness itself. It had no definite shape, constantly shifting and reforming, but the impression was of something massive and vaguely humanoid, composed of absolute darkness that somehow made the night around it seem bright by comparison. Where its face should be, there was only a gaping maw that seemed to devour the very light around it. "That's not good," Naruto stated, feeling his mouth go dry. "A void sentinel," Nyx hissed, her form expanding as her power rose. Stars glittered in her midnight skin. "The void has gained enough purchase to manifest an avatar." The sentinel turned what passed for its head toward them, seeming to focus particularly on Naruto. It let out a sound that wasn't quite a roar, more like the absence of sound, a horrible silence that pressed against the eardrums. Then it attacked. Moving with impossible speed, the creature lunged, a limb that looked like a spear of nothingness extending toward Naruto's chest. Naruto reacted on instinct, throwing himself sideways while flinging a raisin shuriken at the entity. The spiraling chakra disc sliced through the sentinel, and continued on, harmlessly passing through its form. Physical attacks won't work, Persephone called, her own power manifesting as vines and roots that erupted from the ground around her. It doesn't exist in the same way we do. The sentinel turned its attention to her, seemingly recognizing the threat she posed. It flowed across the ground like liquid shadow, reforming directly in front of the goddess and engulfing her in its darkness. Persephone! Naruto shouted, rushing forward. A burst of green light erupted from within the darkness, and the sentinel recoiled. Persephone stood unharmed, glowing with emerald energy, flowers blooming and dying rapidly around her feet. "I am the queen of the underworld," she said calmly. "Death does not fear the void." Morpheus moved to flank the creature, his own power manifesting as shimmering waves of dream energy that distorted reality around him. "But alone, none of us can banish it." The sentinel seemed to assess the threat the three gods posed. It expanded suddenly, its formless body stretching to surround them all. Naruto found himself enveloped in cold nothingness, a sensation beyond freezing, the absolute absence of anything. He couldn't see, couldn't hear, couldn't even feel his own body. "No," he thought fiercely. "I've got too much to protect." Drawing on the power he felt stirring inside him since touching the dream stone, Naruto focused his will. Golden light erupted from him, pushing back the nothingness, creating a bubble of existence within the void. Within that bubble, he found Nyx and Persephone similarly surrounded by their own auras, night dark with stars for Nyx, vibrant green life energy for Persephone. Only Morpheus struggled, his dream power flickering as the void pressed in on him. Acting on instinct, Naruto reached out, grabbing Morpheus's arm with one hand and Nyx's with the other. "Join together," he shouted. "Like a chain." Understanding immediately, Nyx took Persephone's hand, who completed the circle by grasping Morpheus's free hand. Energy surged through the connection, gold, starlight silver, emerald green, and the iridescent power of dreams all flowing together, amplifying each other. The combined light of their joined powers pushed back the void with such force that the sentinel shrieked that awful silence again. "Now what?" Naruto called over the maelstrom of energies. "We need to close the tear," Nyx responded, her voice echoing strangely through their connection. "The sentinel is just a symptom, the void itself is the threat." "How?" Naruto demanded, feeling the strain of channeling so much power. Despite all his experience with massive chakra reserves, this was different, like trying to contain an ocean in a cup. "The dream sovereign must weave the fabric of reality back together," Morpheus said, his earlier antagonism forgotten in the face of this greater threat. "Your power connects all realms." "I don't know how to do that," Naruto protested. Persephone's green eyes locked with his. "Yes, you do. It's why the dream stone chose you. Trust your instincts." The sentinel was recovering, its form reconstituting as it pulled more power from the tear. They didn't have much time. Closing his eyes, Naruto focused on the energy flowing through him, not just his own chakra or the dream power, but the combined essence of all four of them. He visualized the tear, seeing in his mind's eye the frayed edges of reality. "It's like a broken cloth," he realized. "It just needs to be stitched back together." Directing the combined power through sheer will, Naruto imagined weaving those ragged edges, pulling them toward each other, binding them with the golden energy that flowed through him. The air around them shuddered. The sentinel let out another silent scream. Naruto pushed harder, sweat beading on his forehead as he focused every ounce of his legendary determination on this single task. "It's working," Nyx called. "The tear is closing." Naruto didn't open his eyes, didn't break his concentration. He could feel the resistance, the void pushing back, trying to maintain its foothold in their reality. But he'd faced impossible odds before. He'd never backed down, never given up. With a final surge of will, he slammed the edges of reality together, sealing the tear with the combined power of the triumvirate. The sentinel, cut off from its source, began to dissolve. Its formless body broke apart into wisps of nothingness that faded like smoke in wind. The oppressive feeling of wrongness lifted from the air. Naruto opened his eyes to find all three gods staring at him with expressions ranging from shock, Morpheus, to pride, Nyx, to fascination, Persephone. "You did it," Persephone said, wonder in her voice. "You sealed a void incursion on your first attempt." "Impossible," Morpheus muttered. "It took me millennia to learn that technique, and even then I could only slow the void, not repel it entirely." Naruto swayed on his feet, suddenly exhausted. "Yeah, well, I've always been a fast learner." Nyx caught him before he could fall. "You've expended tremendous energy. Your mortal form needs rest." "Can't rest," Naruto protested weakly. "Need to check the village, make sure everyone's safe." "Your Hokage and clones have the situation well in hand," Nyx assured him. "And we will remain vigilant." "Indeed," Persephone said, placing a cool hand on his forehead. "Sleep now, Dream Sovereign. You've earned it." A wave of irresistible drowsiness washed over Naruto. His last thought before darkness claimed him was that it was pretty ironic for the supposed master of dreams to be put to sleep so easily. Naruto awoke to the familiar ceiling of his apartment. Sunlight streamed through his window, suggesting he'd been out for hours. He sat up slowly, surprised to find his body aching as if he'd gone 10 rounds with Madara Uchiha. "The physical toll of channeling divine power through a mortal form," a melodic voice observed. "Your body is remarkably resilient, but even you have limits." Persephone sat in a chair beside his bed, a small potted plant in her lap that definitely hadn't been there before. As her fingers stroked its leaves, the plant visibly grew, buds forming and blooming in accelerated time. "Where are the others?" Naruto asked, his voice rough. "Nyx is reinforcing the barriers around your village. Morpheus has returned to the dream realm to assess the damage." She offered him a cup filled with golden liquid. "Drink this. It will help with the fatigue." Naruto sniffed it suspiciously. "What is it?" "Nectar. The drink of the gods." Seeing his hesitation, she smiled. "Diluted, of course. Full strength would burn a mortal to ash, no matter how extraordinary." "Comforting," Naruto muttered, but took a sip anyway. The effect was immediate and incredible. Warmth flooded his body, easing the ache in his muscles and clearing the fog from his mind. It tasted like everything good he'd ever eaten all at once: Ichiraka ramen, fresh fruit on a hot day, his mother's cooking from that one precious encounter within his mindscape. "Whoa," he breathed. "That's intense." "Divine essence in liquid form," Persephone explained. "Use it sparingly. Your body is already changing, adapting to your new powers. Too much acceleration of that process could be dangerous." Naruto set the cup aside after another small sip. "So, you're really the queen of the underworld? Like, actual death?" Persephone's smile turned wry. "The underworld is more than just death, Naruto Uzumaki. It is transition, transformation. I oversee the passage of souls from one state of being to another." Her green eyes studied him curiously. "You've touched death before, haven't you? I can sense its mark on you." Naruto thought of Pain's attack on the village, of falling into darkness before meeting his father. "Yeah, you could say that. Yet you returned. Few souls walk that path in reverse." She tilted her head, the movement oddly bird-like. "Perhaps that's part of why the Dream Stone chose you. You bridge worlds already, life and death, human and tailed beast, hate and love." Before Naruto could respond to that unexpectedly profound observation, the door opened, and Nyx entered. The night goddess had resumed her more human appearance, though her eyes still shone with silver light. "Good, you're awake," she said. We have much to discuss and little time. Naruto swung his legs over the side of the bed. The void, is it gone? For now, Nick said. But the tear you sealed was just the beginning. The convergence has accelerated beyond what any of us anticipated. More tears are forming throughout your world and beyond. The underworld is affected as well, Persephone added. Dreams are bleeding into the realm of the dead. Souls are experiencing visions they should not, memories that aren't theirs. That doesn't sound good, Naruto observed, pulling on his jacket. So what's the plan? You must complete your training, Nick stated. Quickly. What you did last night was impressive but dangerous. You channeled power on instinct alone. Next time, we might not be so fortunate. And while you train, Persephone continued, we must address the instability in the underworld. If the dreams of the dead begin to manifest in the world of the living. She didn't need to finish. Naruto could imagine how terrifying that would be, the nightmares and regrets of the deceased taking physical form. So I train with Nyx, and then what? We go to the underworld? Naruto asked. Persephone nodded. My realm exists at a critical junction between life and death, reality and dream. If we can stabilize it, we may gain control over the convergence. What about Morpheus? Wasn't he all about stopping this convergence thing? Nyx's expression darkened. Morpheus plays his own game. He claims to support us now, but I trust him little. He has ruled the dream realm too long to surrender control willingly. Great, Naruto sighed. So I'm training to control godly powers while reality falls apart, with a sketchy dream god who might stab us in the back. Just another Tuesday in Konoha. Both goddesses looked at him with something like amusement. Your perspective is refreshing, Persephone said. Immortals tend to lose their sense of humor after the first few millennia. Speaking of perspective, Nyx interjected, your friends are quite insistent about seeing you. Particularly the pink-haired one with the impressive right hook. Naruto grinned. That's Sakura. And yeah, probably better not to keep her waiting if she's in a punching mood. Indeed, Nyx said dryly. We'll begin your training at moonrise. Until then, reassure your companions and rest. After the goddesses left, Persephone literally melting into the floor like she was sinking into soil, Nyx dissolving into shadow, Naruto took a moment to center himself. His life had gone from complicated to cosmic in less than a week. But strangely, he didn't feel overwhelmed. If anything, he felt more focused than ever. This new power, he murmured to himself, it's like I've been preparing for it my whole life without knowing. Because you have been, Kurama rumbled from within, the fox finally breaking his unusual silence. Kit, there's something about these gods and their prophecy that feels familiar. Familiar how? Naruto asked, surprised. I'm not sure yet. But the Nine Tails have existed since the earliest days of your world. We've seen much that has been forgotten by humans. The fox's voice grew thoughtful. This convergence reminds me of stories the old man told us, about the time before chakra, before the divine tree. You think this has happened before? Perhaps not exactly this. But cycles repeat, Kit. Powers rise and fall. Just be careful who you trust, gods play longer games than even-tailed beasts can comprehend. With that cryptic warning, Kurama retreated into the depths of their shared consciousness, leaving Naruto with even more questions than before. Sakura, predictably, was not happy. You fought a manifestation of cosmic nothingness without backup, she demanded, pacing Naruto's living room where she, Hinata, Shikamaru and Kakashi had gathered. What part of, tell your friends when godly threats appear, didn't sink in? It happened pretty fast, Naruto defended, rubbing the back of his head. And I did have backup, 3 gods, remember? Gods who, by your own admission, might have their own agendas, Shikamaru pointed out. He sat with his fingers steepled, eyes closed in deep thought. This convergence sounds troublesome on a whole new scale. Hinata, who sat closest to Naruto, looked more concerned than angry. "Are you really okay? Channeling that much power?" "I'm fine," Naruto assured her with a smile. "Just a little tired. Nothing some ramen won't fix." "The question is what happens now," Kakashi said, leaning against the wall with his customary slouch that fooled absolutely no one about his alertness. "These tears are appearing beyond Konoha. Reports from the land of wind indicate similar phenomena in the desert. Gaara's dealing with this too." Naruto straightened, instantly concerned for his friend. "The Kazekage has things under control for now," Kakashi assured him. "But it's spreading, Naruto. Whatever this is, it's not just our problem anymore." Shikamaru opened his eyes. "We need more information. These gods are telling you pieces, but not the whole picture. What exactly is the convergence supposed to accomplish? Why is the void suddenly interested in our world? And most importantly, what happens if you succeed or fail?" "Valid questions," came Nix's voice as she materialized from a shadow in the corner. Everyone except Kakashi startled at her sudden appearance. "You know," Naruto said with mild exasperation, "doors work great in this realm." The corner of Nix's mouth quirked up. "My apologies. Old habits." She addressed the group. "To answer your questions, the convergence is the realignment of fundamental cosmic forces. Dream, night, and death, the three pillars of existence, returning to their original harmony." Original? Shikamaru caught the word immediately. They were in harmony before. At the dawn of creation, Nix confirmed. Before the realms were separated, before the gods established their domains. All existed in a state of perfect balance. What happened? Hinata asked quietly. War, Nix said simply. The primordial gods fought for supremacy. In the aftermath, reality itself was fractured into separate realms, the waking world, the dream realm, the underworld, and countless others. The void, which had always existed at the edges of creation, saw its opportunity and began its long campaign to reclaim what exists. And now these realms are coming back together, Sakura said. Because of Naruto. Not because of him, Nix corrected. Through him. The Dream Sovereign is the catalyst, not the cause. The convergence was always going to happen, it's a natural correction to an unnatural separation. And the void? Kakashi asked. Where does it fit in? The void opposes all existence, Nix explained. When barriers weaken during the convergence, it seeks entry. If it succeeds, if it establishes a permanent foothold in any realm, it will spread like a cancer until all reality is consumed. A heavy silence fell over the room as they absorbed this information. So no pressure, Naruto finally said with forced lightness. Just save all of existence. And here I thought becoming Hokage was ambitious. Despite the gravity of the situation, his friends couldn't help but smile. It was such a typical Naruto response, facing cosmic horror with determined humor. What can we do to help? Hinata asked, her pale eyes resolved. Protect this village, Nix said. It serves as our anchor in the mortal realm. While Naruto trains and we address the underworld disturbances, Konoha must remain safe. Consider it done, Kakashi said with easy confidence. This village has faced its share of impossible threats. One more won't break us. Shikamaru nodded. I'll coordinate with the sensor division to locate tiers as they form. If we can't close them, we can at least contain whatever comes through. And I'll work with the medical corps, Sakura added. If these nightmare creatures can hurt people in ways we're not familiar with, we need to develop countermeasures. Naruto looked at his friends with a surge of gratitude. No matter how strange or dangerous the situation, they always had his back. Thanks, everyone, he said simply. The words felt inadequate for what he was feeling, but they seemed to understand anyway. As the meeting broke up, Hinata lingered behind. Once they were alone, she placed a gentle hand on Naruto's arm. You don't have to carry this alone, she said softly. I know you feel responsible because the Dream Stone chose you, but this is bigger than any one person. Naruto covered her hand with his. I know. It's just, everything's happening so fast. A week ago I was just Naruto Uzumaki, trying to figure out what kind of Hokage I want to be someday. Now I'm part of some divine triumvirate that's supposed to reshape reality. You're still Naruto Uzumaki, Hinata said firmly. Dream sovereign or not, that hasn't changed. Your heart, your will, your way of never giving up, that's why the Dream Stone chose you in the first place. Her words hit home in a way nothing else had since this all began. Naruto felt something settle inside him, a renewed sense of his own identity amid all this cosmic chaos. On impulse, he pulled Hinata into a hug. How do you always know exactly what I need to hear? She returned the embrace, her voice warm against his chest. Because I've been watching you for a long time, Naruto-kun. I see you, not just the hero or the Jinchuriki or the Dream Sovereign. Just you. When she pulled back, her pale eyes held a determination that matched his own. Now go train with your goddess. Learn what you need to know. We'll be here when you're ready. Naruto nodded, a new resolve strengthening him. I'll be back before you know it. And then we'll fix this whole convergence thing, believe it. Moonrise found Naruto at the top of the Hokage monument, sitting cross-legged as Nyx had instructed. The night goddess stood before him, her true form unveiled in the darkness, tall and majestic, her skin the color of the space between stars, her hair flowing around her like a living galaxy. The power of the Dream Sovereign flows from understanding, she was saying. Not merely of dreams, but of the connections between all things. In dreams, all possibilities exist simultaneously, past, present, future, fantasy, fear, hope. Your task is to learn to navigate these possibilities, to shape them, to bring order to chaos. Naruto tried to focus, but his mind kept returning to the conversation with Hinata and his friends. Before we start, I need to know something. What happens to my world when the convergence completes? Will everything change? Will they still be themselves? Nyx's silver eyes studied him. You fear for your precious ones. Wouldn't you? The goddess was silent for a moment. The foundational nature of reality will shift. The barriers between dream and waking, between life and death, they will become more permeable. But individuals will remain as they are, though perhaps with greater awareness of the interconnectedness of all things. So my friends, my village, they'll be okay. If we succeed, yes. Nyx's expression grew solemn. If we fail, and the void gains dominance. Everyone ceases to exist, Naruto finished. Yeah, I got that part. So failure isn't an option. Indeed. Nyx gestured to the vast night sky above them. Now, close your eyes and extend your senses, as I taught you before. But this time, reach further, beyond the dreams of those nearby, beyond the boundaries of this village. Feel the dream threads that connect all sleeping minds. Naruto closed his eyes, focusing as instructed. At first, he felt only what he had in previous sessions, the dreams of Konoha citizens, a tapestry of hopes and fears, memories and fantasies all intertwining. But then, pushing harder, he sensed something more, dream threads extending beyond the village, across the land, a vast network that covered the entire world. I can feel them, he murmured, awe in his voice. All of them. So many dreams. Good, Nyx said. Now, find the place where those threads begin to fray, where dreams touch the void. Naruto concentrated, following the dream threads outward. Most were solid, vibrant with life and imagination. But in certain places, they seemed to thin, to unravel at the edges. And beyond those frayed spots, he sensed, nothing. Not darkness, not emptiness, but the complete absence of anything, a concept his mind struggled to grasp. There, he said, pointing without opening his eyes. To the north, and there, to the east. And, below. How can it be below? The void doesn't obey physical directions, Nyx explained. It exists orthogonally to reality itself. What you're sensing is the void pressing against the underworld, Persephone's realm. Naruto opened his eyes. It's getting worse, isn't it? The fraying. Yes. The convergence accelerates. We have perhaps days, not weeks, before the barriers weaken beyond recovery. Nyx held out her hand, and a small orb of starlight formed in her palm. Now, for the next phase of your training. You must learn to manipulate dream essence in the waking world. For the next several hours, Naruto practiced shaping and directing dream energy under Nyx's guidance. It was different from chakra manipulation, less structured, more intuitive, responding to imagination as much as will. By dawn, he could form basic constructs of dream essence, shields, bridges, even crude weapons that glowed with golden light. Your progress is remarkable, Nyx acknowledged as the first rays of sunlight crept over the horizon. But time grows short. We must accelerate your training. How? Naruto asked, wiping sweat from his brow despite the cool morning air. We must enter the dream realm fully. There, your power will be at its peak, and I can teach you in days what would otherwise take years. But what about Konoha? The tears? If I'm in the dream realm, who protects the village? I have spoken with your Hokage, Nyx said. Persephone will remain here to assist your friends while we train. Her power over life and death makes her particularly effective against void incursions. Naruto hesitated, torn between the need to master his new powers and his instinct to stay and protect those he loved. Dream Sovereign, Nyx said, her voice gentler than he'd heard before, I understand your reluctance. But consider this, the greatest protection you can offer your world is to become what you are meant to be. Every moment you spend untrained is a moment the void grows stronger. He knew she was right, but that didn't make it easier. How long will we be gone? Time flows differently in the dream realm. What feels like weeks to us may be only days here. Seeing his continued hesitation, she added, your friends are capable warriors, Naruto Uzumaki. Trust them as they trust you. Finally, Naruto nodded. All right. But I want to say goodbye first. Of course. Meet me at the site of the temple where you found the dream stone at sunset. The boundary is thinnest there, it will make our transition easier. As Nyx faded into the morning shadows, Naruto made his way back to the village, his mind heavy with the weight of what was to come. So you're going to some divine dream boot camp, Sakura summarized after Naruto explained the situation to his gathered friends. They'd met at Ichiraku, his choice, needing the comfort of the familiar before his journey. While we hang out with the queen of the underworld and fight cosmic nightmares. Pretty much, Naruto confirmed around a mouthful of ramen. Nyx says I'll come back with way better control over these powers. It's the logical move, Shikamaru said. Troublesome as it is, you're the linchpin in all this. The faster you master these abilities, the better our chances. Just come back in one piece, Hinata said softly. We'll handle things here. Speaking of handling things, Kakashi interjected, setting down his chopsticks, having somehow eaten without anyone seeing his face, Persephone has already proven quite helpful. She's established what she calls anchors at the village boundaries, points that strengthen the barrier Nyx created. She also helped in the hospital, Sakura added. There was a child affected by one of those nightmare creatures, having night terrors that wouldn't stop. Persephone touched her forehead and just fixed it. Said the creature left a death echo that she could remove. Naruto felt a small measure of relief. At least his village would be in good hands while he was gone. As the conversation continued, he found himself studying his friends, Sakura's determined eyes, Shikamaru's calculating gaze, Hinata's quiet strength. These were the people who had stood beside him through everything. The people who saw him as Naruto, not as the Nine-Tails Jinchuriki or the Child of Prophecy or now, the Dream Sovereign. When it was time to leave, they walked with him to the village gates. Kakashi handed him a small scroll. A communication seal, the Hokage explained. If it's possible to send messages from wherever you're going, this should help. Thanks, Naruto said, tucking it away. I'll try to check in. Don't worry about us, Sakura said, punching his arm lightly. Just focus on your training. We've got this. Yeah, Kiba added, having joined them with Akamaru at his side. Not the first apocalypse we've faced, right? One by one, his friends offered encouragement, support, the occasional joke to lighten the mood. Hinata was the last to approach. Trust yourself, she said simply, then surprised him by leaning in to kiss his cheek. Your heart has never led you astray. Naruto felt warmth spread through him that had nothing to do with dream powers or divine energy. I'll be back before you know it, he promised. Take care of each other. With a final wave, he turned and leapt into the trees, heading toward the distant mountains where his journey had begun. Behind him, the village continued its evening routines, lights coming on in windows, children being called home for dinner, shinobi changing guard shifts. Normal life continuing despite the cosmic drama unfolding around them. That's what he was fighting for, Naruto realized. Not some abstract concept of reality or existence, but this, the simple, precious moments of ordinary life. I won't let you down, he whispered to the village behind him. Any of you? Nyx waited at the temple ruins, her form silhouetted against the setting sun. The structure looked different now, more ancient, more alive somehow. The spiral patterns carved into the stone glowed faintly, pulsing in a rhythm like a heartbeat. You've said your farewells? She asked as Naruto approached. He nodded. Let's do this. Nyx gestured to the pedestal where he'd first found the dream stone. Stand there. Hold the stone in your hands and focus on its energy. I will guide the transition. Naruto took the crystal from his pocket, he'd been carrying it with him since that first day. In the fading light, it seemed to come alive, the colors within it swirling with increased vigor. As he stood on the pedestal, holding the dream stone, Nyx began to move in a slow, graceful pattern around him. Her movements left trails of starlight in the air, forming complex symbols that hung suspended around them. The dream realm exists parallel to all others, she explained as she worked. It touches every mind, every soul, every moment of existence. As dream sovereign, you exist simultaneously in both realms, but your consciousness has been anchored to the waking world. Now, we shift that anchor. The symbols she'd created began to spin, forming a sphere of light around Naruto. The temple ruins seemed to fade, becoming transparent, while other structures, impossible architecture of crystal and light, began to appear in their place. Breathe, Nyx instructed. Let the transition happen naturally. Don't fight it. Naruto focused on his breathing, watching in fascination as reality itself seemed to dissolve around him. The dream stone in his hands grew warm, then hot, pulsing in time with his heartbeat. Almost there, Nyx said, her voice sounding both near and impossibly distant. Now, take a step forward, not in space, but in perception. See beyond seeing. Naruto wasn't entirely sure what that meant, but he trusted Nyx's guidance. He focused on the swirling colors within the dream stone, letting his awareness sink into them, beyond them. Suddenly, like breaking through the surface of water, he was elsewhere. The world around him had completely transformed. They stood in what appeared to be an endless landscape of shifting terrain, mountains that flowed like liquid, forests whose trees were made of crystal, oceans that rippled with colors no human eye had ever seen. Above, the sky was a tapestry of dreams, billions of small, glowing nodes connected by threads of light, forming patterns of incomprehensible complexity. The dream realm, Nyx said, spreading her arms. Here, in her native element, she was even more magnificent, taller, more radiant, the stars in her skin burning like beacons. As it truly is, not as glimpsed through dreams or meditation. Naruto turned in a slow circle, trying to take it all in. It's incredible. And far larger than what you see. This is merely the threshold. Nyx pointed to a distant mountain that seemed to be made of pure crystal. There we will begin your training in earnest. My sanctuary. How do we get there? Naruto asked, estimating the mountain to be what looked like many miles away. Nyx smiled, a hint of mischief in her ancient eyes. In the dream realm, distance is a matter of perspective. Think yourself there, and there you will be. Just like that. Just like that. The dream sovereign is bound by fewer rules here than even gods. This is your domain, after all. Naruto focused on the crystal mountain, imagining himself standing at its base. Nothing happened. You're thinking like a mortal, Nyx observed. Don't visualize the journey. Simply know that you are there. Closing his eyes, Naruto tried again. This time, instead of picturing movement toward the mountain, he simply accepted that he was already there, that the mountain was his destination, and destinations are where one ends up. When he opened his eyes, they stood at the base of the crystal peak. What had seemed like an ordinary mountain from a distance was revealed to be an enormous structure, a palace or temple of impossible geometry, its crystalline surfaces reflecting not just light but emotions, thoughts, dreams. Whoa, Naruto breathed. That worked. The first lesson of dream sovereignty, Nyx said. Intent supersedes method. What you truly will, becomes. She led him into the crystal structure through an archway that seemed to form itself as they approached. Inside was a vast hall supported by columns of swirling dream essence, the ceiling a miniature version of the dream tapestry he'd seen in the sky. This will be your home while you train, Nyx explained. A place outside time, where your power can grow without the constraints of mortal existence. It's amazing, Naruto said, then paused as a thought struck him. But wait, if I'm fully in the dream realm now, what happens to my body in the waking world? Your physical form remains at the temple, protected by wards I've established. But your true essence, what makes you Naruto Uzumaki, is here. She gestured to a crystalline pool in the center of the hall. Through this, we can observe the waking world if you wish. Naruto immediately moved to the pool, looking into its depths. The surface rippled, then cleared to show the temple ruins where his body apparently sat in lotus position, surrounded by a barrier of softly glowing symbols. Can I check on Konoha? He asked. Nyx waved her hand over the pool, and the image shifted to show the hidden leaf village from above. Everything looked peaceful, no tears, no void incursions visible. Your friends are safe for now, Nyx said. But we must begin your training without delay. The convergence continues to accelerate. I'm ready, Naruto said, turning away from the pool. What's first? First, you must understand what it truly means to be the dream sovereign. Nyx's expression turned serious. It is not merely a title or a set of powers. It is a fundamental aspect of existence itself. The dream sovereign doesn't just control dreams, he embodies the very concept of possibility. Possibility? Yes. Dreams are the realm of what could be, all potentialities existing simultaneously. As sovereign, you can bring those potentialities into being or banish them to non-existence. She created a small sphere of dream essence in her palm. Consider this simple dream construct. Within it exists every possible variation of itself, larger, smaller, different colors, different compositions. As dream sovereign, you can select which possibility becomes dominant. To demonstrate, she handed him the sphere. Naruto held it gingerly, feeling the swirl of potential within. Now, Nyx instructed, don't think about changing it. Simply know which possibility you prefer, and accept that as reality. Naruto focused, thinking about the sphere turning blue, but caught himself. That wasn't what Nyx had said. Instead, he tried to feel the different potentials within the construct, sensing them as distinct threads of possibility. He found one that resonated with him, a version of the sphere that pulsed with golden light, like a miniature sun, and simply accepted it as the true version. The sphere transformed instantly, becoming exactly what he'd envisioned. Good, Nyx said with approval. You learn quickly. This is kind of like sage mode, Naruto realized. Feeling the energy around me, becoming one with it rather than forcing it to change. An apt comparison. Now, let's try something more complex. For what felt like days, though time had little meaning in this place, Naruto trained under Nyx's guidance. He learned to create and manipulate dream constructs of increasing complexity, to navigate the dream realm at will, to sense disturbances in the dream fabric and repair them. Most challenging was learning to experience multiple perspectives simultaneously, a skill Nyx insisted was essential for the dream sovereign. Reality is subjective, she explained as they stood atop the crystal mountain, looking out over the endless dreamscape. What is true for one dreamer may be false for another, yet both experiences are equally valid within their respective dreams. The sovereign must hold these contradictions in balance. So I need to be able to see things from different perspectives at the same time? Naruto asked. Precisely. Begin with 2, then 3, then more as you grow comfortable. It was like trying to look left and right simultaneously, seemingly impossible until suddenly, it wasn't. Naruto found that by relaxing his sense of self, allowing his consciousness to expand, he could indeed perceive multiple viewpoints at once. The experience was disorienting at first, then exhilarating. He could see the dreamscape from above and below, from within and without. He could experience the dreams of others while maintaining his own awareness. This is incredible, he said, his voice echoing strangely as his consciousness existed in multiple points at once. I can see everything. Not everything, Nyx corrected. But far more than before. This ability will be crucial when you must weave the dream fabric during the convergence. As his training progressed, Naruto discovered that his existing abilities complemented his new powers in unexpected ways. His shadow clones, when created in the dream realm, could each maintain a separate consciousness while remaining connected to the whole, allowing him to monitor and influence thousands of dreams simultaneously. His Rasengan, infused with dream essence, became a tool for reshaping reality itself rather than just a destructive technique. And his six-path sage mode, when combined with his growing dream powers, allowed him to sense and influence the very foundations of existence. You're progressing faster than I dared hope, Nyx told him after a particularly intensive session. Your mortal experiences have prepared you well for this role. All those years of training, fighting, protecting people, Naruto reflected. It's like everything was leading to this, even though I had no idea. Perhaps it was, Nyx said. Prophecies have a way of preparing their subjects long before the prophecy itself is known. They were interrupted by a ripple in the dream fabric, a disturbance that sent waves of dissonance across the dreamscape. Naruto sensed it immediately, his new awareness automatically tracking the source. Something's wrong, he said. In the waking world. They rushed to the crystal pool, which showed them a disturbing scene, Konoha under attack. Multiple void tears had opened around the village, larger than before. Nightmare creatures poured through, along with something new, humanoid figures made of living shadow, wielding weapons that seemed to erase whatever they touched. Void walkers, Nyx hissed. The void grows bolder. Naruto watched in horror as his friends fought desperately against the onslaught. Hinata and Neji worked in tandem, their gentle fist effective against the shadow figures but leaving them exhausted. Sakura's monstrous strength shattered nightmare creatures, while Shikamaru's shadow technique seemed particularly effective at binding the void walkers. But they were being overwhelmed by sheer numbers. And worse, Naruto couldn't see Persephone anywhere in the battle. Where's Persephone? He demanded. She was supposed to protect them. The pool's view shifted, showing another part of the village. There was Persephone, engaged in battle with Morpheus. The dream god had shed his refined appearance, now a swirling mass of dream essence and nightmare, attacking the queen of the underworld with vicious intensity. Around them, a barrier of plant life and death energy held back the void incursions, but it was clearly weakening. He betrayed us, Nyx said, her voice cold with anger. Just as I feared. I have to go back, Naruto said, already moving. They need me. Wait. Nyx caught his arm. If you return now, your training incomplete, you may not be able to return here. The connection is tenuous, and Morpheus will surely try to sever it. I don't care. Those are my friends, my people. I won't sit here and watch them die. Nyx studied him for a long moment, then nodded. Your loyalty does you credit, Dream Sovereign. But remember, you return stronger than when you left, yet still not at your full potential. Be cautious. How do I get back? Naruto asked, anxiety making his voice sharp. The same way we came. But this time, I will remain here to maintain the bridge between realms. You may need to return to complete your training, depending on what you find. She led him to a circular platform that hadn't been there before, or perhaps had always been there, just not in the possibility Naruto had been perceiving. In its center was an exact replica of the temple pedestal where his body waited. Stand there, Nyx instructed. Focus on the dream stone, on your physical form. Will yourself to rejoin it. Naruto took his position, clutching the dream stone that had somehow remained with him despite being in both realms. One more thing, Nyx said as she began to weave the symbols for the transition. Morpheus's betrayal may not be what it seems. He is the god of dreams, of illusion. Trust what you sense, not what you see. Before Naruto could ask what she meant, the transition began. The dream realm dissolved around him, colors and sensations rushing past as his consciousness hurtled back toward his waiting body. He had a brief, disorienting sensation of being in multiple places at once, in the dream realm, in his body, in every dream connected to his power, and then, with a jolt like electricity, he was fully back in the temple ruins. The protective wards around him shattered as he stood, his body stiff from sitting motionless for, how long? The position of the stars suggested at least 2 days had passed. There was no time to stretch. Focusing on the techniques Nyx had taught him, Naruto reached out with his senses, finding the dream threads that connected to Konoha. Using them as a guide, he willed himself there, not physically moving, but shifting his very existence from one location to another. The world blurred, and then he stood atop the Hokage monument, looking down at a village under siege. The scene was even worse than what he'd observed through the crystal pool. Void tears had opened throughout Konoha, each spewing forth nightmares and void walkers. The village's defenders fought valiantly, but they were clearly exhausted, pushed to their limits. And at the center of it all, just as he'd seen, Persephone and Morpheus locked in combat that warped reality around them. Naruto didn't hesitate. Drawing on his new powers, he created a construct of pure dream essence, a massive version of his nine-tailed fox form, glowing golden and semi-transparent, and leapt into the battle. His arrival didn't go unnoticed. Civilians and shinobi alike looked up as the giant dream fox descended into the village center, its paws crushing nightmare creatures beneath them. Naruto's back, someone shouted, and a ragged cheer went up from the defenders. Naruto directed his construct toward Persephone and Morpheus, landing between them with enough force to create a shockwave that pushed them apart. Enough, his voice boomed, amplified by the dream essence. What the hell is going on, Morpheus? The dream god, still in his nightmare form, writhed and shifted. Sovereign, he hissed, his voice distorted. How, unexpected. Persephone looked equally surprised but relieved. Naruto. Thank the primordials. The barriers began failing yesterday, Morpheus appeared, claiming to help, but then attacked me when I discovered what he was really doing. And what was he doing? Naruto demanded, keeping his construct between them. Creating anchor points for the void, Persephone said, anger clear in her voice. Not closing tears, but stabilizing them, allowing controlled incursions. Is this true? Naruto asked, focusing on Morpheus. The dream god's form shimmered, partially returning to his more human appearance. The convergence cannot be stopped, he said, his voice steadier now. I sought only to direct it, to channel the void's entry points away from the most vulnerable areas. By attacking Persephone? By letting these things loose on my village? Naruto's construct growled, dream essence rippling with his anger. You don't understand the complexities. I understand enough, Naruto cut him off. Nyx warned me you had your own agenda. I should have listened. Morpheus's expression shifted, a calculating look replacing his defensive posture. Did she now? How interesting. And what else did the Night Mother tell you during your training? Something in the dream god's tone made Naruto pause, remembering Nyx's final warning, trust what you sense, not what you see. Extending his new senses, Naruto looked beyond physical appearance, beyond even the dream essence that composed Morpheus and Persephone. He looked for the deeper truth, the resonance of their true natures. What he found shocked him to his core. You're not Morpheus, he said, focusing on the dream god. Your essence, it's wrong. Twisted. The figure that appeared to be Morpheus smiled, but it wasn't the dream god's usual smug expression. This smile was wrong, too wide, too empty. Clever sovereign, not Morpheus said, its voice changing, becoming hollow. The Night Mother taught you well. But too late, I think. The figure's form began to shift, the pretense of Morpheus falling away to reveal something else, a being composed of swirling void essence barely constrained in humanoid shape, with only the thinnest shell of dream power giving it form. A void mimicker, Persephone gasped. They're supposed to be theoretical, the void cannot copy life. Theories change, the creature said with that terrible smile. Reality changes. Especially when properly encouraged. Naruto turned to Persephone, extending his senses toward her as well. What he found there confused him. Her essence was genuinely that of the queen of the underworld, but there was something else, something hidden beneath the surface. Where's the real Morpheus? He demanded. Before either could answer, a new tear opened directly above them, larger than any Naruto had seen, a gaping wound in reality itself. From within it emerged a figure Naruto recognized despite having seen it only once before, the Void Sentinel, but larger now, more defined, its maw of nothingness turned toward Konoha with hungry intent. The convergence enters its final phase, the mimicker said with satisfaction. The barriers fall. The void ascends. Like hell it does, Naruto growled. Dismissing his fox construct, he drew fully on the power he'd cultivated in the dream realm. Golden energy erupted around him as he rose into the air, directly into the path of the sentinel. I am the dream sovereign, he declared, his voice carrying across the village. This world is under my protection. This reality is mine. The sentinel roared its soundless roar, reaching for him with limbs of absolute nothingness. But Naruto was ready. Channeling dream essence through the techniques Nyx had taught him, he created a network of golden energy that spread out like a web, catching the sentinel and holding it back from the village. Persephone, he called. I need your power. The triumvirate, two parts can still hold it back. The queen of the underworld hesitated only a moment before rising to join him, green energy flowing around her as she added her power to his web. Where their energies met, the web strengthened, glowing with combined light that pushed against the void. The mimicker snarled, its form destabilizing as it launched itself at them. No. The convergence must happen our way. Our. Naruto caught the word even as he strained against the sentinel's massive force. Who's our? Before the mimicker could answer, a new voice spoke, familiar, but twisted with pain. Sovereign, beware. From another, smaller tier nearby, a battered figure emerged, the real Morpheus, his form flickering with instability, his usual elegant appearance in tatters. The Night Mother. He gasped, then fell to his knees as the mimicker rounded on him with a shriek of rage. Silence, dream god, it spat, lashing out with a tendril of void essence that struck Morpheus with devastating force. The dream god cried out, his form wavering dangerously close to dissolution. But he managed one more sentence before collapsing, Nyx serves the Void King. The accusation hung in the air as Naruto and Persephone struggled to contain the sentinel. Below, Konoha's defenders rallied against the lesser nightmares and void walkers, slowly pushing them back. Is it true? Naruto demanded of Persephone. Is Nyx betraying us? The queen of the underworld's face was grim with concentration. I don't know. Morpheus and Nyx have been rivals since the dawn of time. But something has been wrong since the convergence began. The balance is off. The sentinel roared again, pushing against their restraining web with renewed force. Cracks began to appear in reality around them as the pressure of void against existence intensified. We can't hold it much longer, Persephone warned. Not without the third part of the triumvirate. Then we change tactics, Naruto decided. My training may not be complete, but I learned enough. Drawing on everything Nyx had taught him about manipulating possibility, Naruto focused on the tear itself rather than the sentinel emerging from it. Every tear had countless potential states: open, closed, wide, narrow, stable, unstable. As Dream Sovereign, he could select which possibility became dominant. This tear is closed, he declared with absolute certainty, not wishing or hoping, but knowing it as truth. The fabric of reality shuddered. The tear began to shrink, its edges pulling together despite the sentinel's efforts to keep it open. The massive entity roared its soundless protest as it was forced back into the void. The mimicker screamed in fury, launching itself at Naruto with desperate speed. No! You cannot stop what is coming. Persephone intercepted it, green death energy engulfing the creature. Enough of your lies, she said coldly. Return to the nothing from which you came. As the queen of the underworld grappled with the mimicker, Naruto maintained his focus on the tear. Sweat beaded on his forehead, his entire body trembling with the effort of imposing his will on fundamental reality. Close, damn you! Close, he shouted. With a sound like thunder, the tear sealed itself. The backlash of energy sent Naruto tumbling through the air, but he caught himself with dream essence, floating gently back to the ground where his friends had gathered. Persephone descended beside him, the mimicker nowhere to be seen. It is done, she said, her voice heavy with exhaustion. For now. Around the village, the smaller tiers were also closing, the nightmare creatures and void walkers dissolving as their connection to the void was severed. Defenders cheered, though many sat or collapsed where they stood, too tired to celebrate properly. Naruto moved immediately to where Morpheus lay. The dream god's form was dangerously unstable, flickering between his human appearance and raw dream essence. Morpheus, Naruto said, kneeling beside him. What did you mean? How is Nyx involved with the void? The dream god's eyes, now normal, now galaxies, now nothing at all, focused on Naruto with difficulty. The night, and void, ancient allies, before creation. Save your strength, Persephone advised, joining them. His essence is critically damaged. He needs to return to the dream realm to heal. Not, safe there, Morpheus managed. Nyx has, sealed my domain. Taken, control. That's impossible, Persephone said, but she sounded uncertain. Even Nyx couldn't seize another god's domain without, she stopped suddenly, a look of horror crossing her face. Unless she's working with something more powerful than gods. The Void King, Naruto remembered. Who or what is that? A myth, Persephone said. A legend even among immortals, the consciousness of the void itself, given form and purpose. It supposedly existed before creation, before the primordials. Not, myth, Morpheus gasped. Real. Returning. Through. Convergence. The implications hit Naruto like a physical blow. If Nyx was allied with this Void King, if the convergence was actually meant to facilitate its return. My training, he realized. She was teaching me to manipulate dream essence, but always in certain ways. Always with specific limitations. Preparing you, Morpheus confirmed, his voice fading. For your role, in opening. The final door. The dream god's form flickered one last time, then dissolved into motes of light that faded into nothing. "Is he dead?" Naruto asked, stunned. "No," Persephone said. "But without access to his domain, he cannot maintain form in any realm. He has become formless dream essence, scattered across creation." Naruto stood, his mind racing. If what he said is true, then the triumvirate isn't meant to protect reality from the void. It's meant to reshape reality in a way that allows the void to enter permanently. "And you and I are the keys," Persephone concluded. "Dream and death, working in concert with night to create the new cosmic order." Naruto looked around at his village, at the exhausted defenders, the damaged buildings, the civilians emerging cautiously from shelters. At his friends, who were making their way toward him with expressions of relief and concern. "I need to go back," he said suddenly. "To the dream realm. If Nyx has taken control there, if she's really working for this Void King, you can't go alone," Persephone interrupted. "The Night Mother is more powerful in her domain than you can imagine. Even with your training, you would be at a severe disadvantage." "Then come with me," Naruto said. "You're part of the triumvirate too. Together, maybe we can stop whatever she's planning." Persephone considered this, conflict clear in her ancient eyes. "The underworld needs me. With the barriers weakening, the dead grow restless. Dreams bleed into their realm, giving them hopes of return that cannot be fulfilled. My friends need me too," Naruto countered. "My whole world needs me. But if we don't stop this at the source." A new voice joined their conversation. "Then we all go." Naruto turned to find Hinata standing there, her clothes torn, her face streaked with dirt, but her eyes as determined as ever. Behind her stood Sakura, Shikamaru, and Kakashi, all battle-worn but resolute. "You're not going back to face a goddess alone," Hinata continued. "We're coming with you." "Absolutely not," Naruto said immediately. "It's too dangerous. The dream realm isn't like our world, the rules are different, reality itself is fluid." "All the more reason you need us," Shikamaru countered. "You need people who will ground you, remind you of what's real when reality itself becomes questionable." Persephone studied the humans with new interest. "They have a point, Dream Sovereign. In the coming battle, your connection to your humanity may be your greatest weapon. And your greatest shield against Nyx's manipulations," Kakashi added. "It's harder to deceive someone when their precious people are there to see through the lies." Naruto looked at his friends, at their exhausted but determined faces, at the unwavering support in their eyes, and felt something settle inside him. They were right. He'd always been strongest when fighting for others, with others. "All right," he said finally. "But only the four of you. And you have to promise to retreat if things get too dangerous." "Define too dangerous in the context of confronting an ancient goddess in her realm while reality collapses," Sakura said dryly. Despite everything, Naruto found himself smiling. "Fair point." Persephone stepped forward. "I can create a gateway to the dream realm, not as direct as what you and Nyx used, but effective. However, we should not delay. The convergence continues to accelerate, even with this temporary victory." "Let me speak to the village first," Naruto said. "Make sure everything's secure here." While Persephone prepared the gateway, Naruto briefed Konoha's leadership on what had happened and what might be coming. He arranged for additional protections with what he'd learned from Nyx, creating dream wards around the village that would at least slow any new incursions. As night fell, Naruto and his companions gathered at the temple ruins where everything had begun. Persephone had transformed the space, covering the ancient stone with living plants that glowed with soft green light. "The gateway forms at the boundary between life and death, waking and dream," she explained. "This temple already exists partially in multiple realms, which makes our task easier." She pressed her hands to the ground, and the plants responded, growing upward to form an archway of intertwined vines and flowers. Within the arch, reality shimmered and distorted, showing glimpses of the dream realm beyond. "Remember," Persephone told Naruto's friends, "in the dream realm, belief shapes reality. What you expect to happen often will. Keep your minds focused and your hearts true. In other words, Kakashi translated for the others, don't think about failure, or terrible outcomes, or worst-case scenarios. Definitely don't think about the ground suddenly disappearing beneath your feet, Shikamaru added with dry humor. Everyone ready? Naruto asked, looking at each of his companions. Hinata stepped to his side, taking his hand. With you? Always. The gesture steadied him, reminding him of what they were fighting for. Not just cosmic balance or prophecies, but this, simple human connections, the bonds that gave life meaning. Then let's go save reality, he said. Believe it. Together, they stepped through the gateway into the unknown, the fate of all existence hanging in the balance. Chapter 3, Sovereignty. Passing through Persephone's gateway felt like diving through honey, thick, sweet resistance that pushed back against every cell before suddenly giving way. Naruto emerged first into a dreamscape that looked nothing like the Crystal Mountain Sanctuary where he trained with Nyx. Instead, they stood on what appeared to be a vast plain of shimmering quicksilver, reflecting distorted images of themselves and countless other scenes from across reality. The sky above wasn't the familiar tapestry of dream threads he remembered, it was darker, stars blinking in and out of existence as though reality itself couldn't decide which possibilities to manifest. Something's wrong, Naruto said immediately, reaching back to help Hinata through the gateway. The dream realms changed. Persephone emerged next, followed by Sakura, Shikamaru, and finally Kakashi. The queen of the underworld surveyed their surroundings with narrowed eyes. The fabric of dreams is unraveling, she confirmed. Nyx's influence grows stronger. She's reshaping the realm to her preferences. Which are? Kakashi asked, his single visible eye taking in the alien landscape with remarkable calm. Primordial darkness, Persephone replied grimly. Before there were dreams, before there was life or death, there was night, formless, limitless, pregnant with potential but manifesting nothing. Shikamaru crouched, touching the silver surface beneath them. Ripples spread from his fingertips, disturbing the reflected images. So she's trying to revert reality to some pre-creation state. That appears to be her goal, Persephone agreed. Or rather, the goal of whoever she serves. The Void King, Naruto said, the name sending an inexplicable chill through him despite never having encountered the entity. Morpheus seemed terrified of it. With good reason, Persephone said. If the legends are true, the Void King existed before creation itself, a consciousness within nothingness that resented the emergence of something from nothing. Great, Sakura muttered. We're fighting the cosmic embodiment of, get off my lawn. Despite the gravity of their situation, Naruto found himself grinning. Trust Sakura to cut through divine drama with blunt humor. Where do we find Nyx? Hinata asked, her Byakugan activated as she scanned the strange landscape. I can see something. Energy patterns unlike anything I've encountered before. She'll be at the heart of the dream realm, Naruto said with certainty. Where all dream threads converge. That's where she'd have the most control. And how do we get there? Kakashi asked practically. Naruto closed his eyes, focusing on his connection to the dream realm. As the awakening dream sovereign, he could sense the structure of this place even as it changed, the pathways, the connections, the center of it all. This way, he said, opening his eyes and pointing across the quicksilver plain. But we should hurry. I can feel the realm shifting constantly. As they began moving, Naruto glanced at his friends with concern. Remember what Persephone said, your expectations shape reality here. Stay positive, stay focused. So basically the opposite of my usual tactical planning, Shikamaru said dryly. Troublesome. Think of it as a genjutsu where you influence the illusion, not just break it, Kakashi suggested. They'd traveled only a short distance when the quicksilver plain began to change, ripples spreading outward from some distant point. The surface bubbled and shifted, landscapes forming and dissolving in rapid succession. She knows we're here, Persephone warned. Brace yourselves. The silver beneath their feet suddenly hardened into a familiar setting, the streets of Konoha. But this version was wrong, twisted, buildings bent at impossible angles, empty windows that seemed to watch them, streets that doubled back on themselves in looping patterns. Is this Nyx's doing? Naruto asked, unsettled by the distorted version of his home. No, Persephone said, sounding surprised. This is defensive. The dream realm itself is trying to provide you with familiar territory. Why would it do that? Sakura asked. Because the dream sovereign has returned, Persephone explained. The realm recognizes your essence, Naruto, and responds to your deep connections. It's trying to help you navigate. Naruto felt an unexpected surge of emotion, a sense of belonging, of rightness. Despite the strangeness of everything happening, some part of him resonated with this place on a fundamental level. Then let's use that, he said with renewed determination. If the dream realm is on our side, maybe we have a better chance than we thought. They continued through the dream Konoha, which grew more coherent as they progressed, less twisted and more recognizable. Naruto realized that his own confidence was shaping their surroundings, his belief in their mission, in his friends, in himself, strengthening the dream fabric around them. At the center of the village, where the Hokage Tower should have been, they instead found a massive tree unlike anything in the waking world. Its trunk was wider than a building, its bark shifting with images like the surface of the Quicksilver Plain. Its branches reached impossibly high, disappearing into the dark sky above. And wrapped around the trunk, her form both massive and ethereal, was Nyx. The Night Mother had abandoned any pretense of humanity. She was as large as the tree itself, her body composed of living darkness studded with stars. Her eyes were silver moons, and her hair flowed around her like the cosmos itself. Dream Sovereign, she acknowledged, her voice reverberating through the dreamscape. You returned sooner than expected, and with guests. Naruto stepped forward, golden energy instinctively gathering around him as he faced the goddess. Cut the act, Nyx. We know what you're doing. We know about the Void King. Something flickered across her cosmic features, surprise, perhaps, or irritation. Morpheus, she said, her voice colder now. Of course. The dream god always did talk too much. So it's true, Persephone said, moving to stand beside Naruto. You serve the void. Nyx laughed, the sound like distant galaxies colliding. Serve. You understand nothing, Queen of the Underworld. The Void King and I are partners in the oldest sense, we existed together before creation, before the tyranny of form and substance. And now you want to return everything to that state, Naruto concluded. Undo creation itself. Not undo, Nyx corrected. Transform. The current order is flawed, unstable. Surely you've seen this, Dream Sovereign, how reality fractures at its edges, how the barriers between realms weaken. Creation as it exists is unsustainable. So your solution is to let the void consume everything? Naruto challenged. Not consume, Nyx insisted. Embrace. The Void King would restore balance, not existence or non-existence, but perfect equilibrium between them. Hinata stepped up beside Naruto, her voice surprisingly steady as she addressed the cosmic entity. And what happens to everyone and everything that exists now? To all the people living their lives? Nyx's massive form shifted, stars realigning as she seemed to truly notice the mortals for the first time. They would be transformed, their essence preserved but no longer bound to the limitations of individual consciousness. It would be a merciful end to the cycle of suffering that plagues all sentient beings. That's not your choice to make, Naruto said firmly. Nobody asked for this merciful end. People want to live their lives, make their own choices, find their own meaning, even if that includes suffering sometimes. Such limited perspective, Nyx sighed, the sound like wind through empty space. This is why the Dream Stone chose you, Naruto Uzumaki, your unfailing belief in the value of mortal existence. The final component needed for the convergence. What do you mean? Naruto demanded, suddenly uneasy. The triumvirate requires not just power but conviction, Nyx explained. Night and death were always aligned with our purpose, but Dream. She gestured to Naruto. Dream required a champion who truly believed in possibilities, in hope. Someone whose will was strong enough to reshape reality itself. You've been manipulating me from the beginning, Naruto realized. The training, the lessons, you were preparing me to use my powers in specific ways. I was guiding you toward your destiny, Nyx corrected. A destiny greater than you can imagine. You mean destroying everything I care about? Naruto's voice hardened. Not going to happen. Golden energy flared around him as he called upon both his chakra and his growing dream powers. Behind him, his friends moved into battle positions, Hinata with her gentle fist stance, Sakura with chakra gathering in her fists, Shikamaru with hands ready for his shadow techniques, Kakashi with Sharingan uncovered. Persephone's own power manifested as a green aura, vines and roots emerging from the dream ground around her. So be it, Nyx said, her cosmic form darkening as stars winked out across her body. I had hoped you would understand, Dream Sovereign, that you would join us willingly. But the convergence will happen with or without your cooperation. She uncoiled from the great tree, growing even larger as she rose up against them. The dreamscape responded to her power, darkness spreading outward from where she touched the ground, consuming the dream Konoha around them. Protect the tree. Persephone called urgently. It's the heart of the dream realm, if she corrupts it completely, all dreams will fall under her control. Naruto nodded, understanding instantly. Hinata, Kakashi, guard Persephone while she counters Nyx's influence on the tree. Sakura, Shikamaru, with me. We'll keep Nyx occupied. His friends moved without hesitation, trusting his leadership even in this alien realm. Persephone approached the massive tree, placing her hands on its shifting bark, green energy flowing from her into its core. Nyx noticed immediately, sending a tendril of star-flecked darkness toward the queen of the underworld. But Hinata was there, her gentle fist strikes infused with dream essence thanks to her proximity to Naruto, creating bursts of light that disrupted the goddess's attack. Kakashi added his protection, using a dream-enhanced Chidori to create a barrier of lightning that further deterred Nyx's assault. Meanwhile, Naruto launched himself directly at the Night Mother, golden energy trailing from his hands as he formed a massive Rasengan infused with dream power. Sakura flanked him on one side, Shikamaru on the other. You cannot harm me in my element, Dream Sovereign, Nyx declared as she sent waves of darkness to meet his attack. I taught you everything you know about manipulating this realm. Not everything, Naruto countered, remembering what she'd said about intent superseding method. Instead of trying to overpower her darkness with his light, a battle he might indeed lose, he changed tactics. Drawing on his unique connection to the dream realm, Naruto reached for the very fabric of this place, feeling for the threads of possibility that made up Nyx's form. As sovereign, he could select which possibilities became dominant. Your power here isn't absolute, he declared with certainty. It's limited. Contained. Mortal. The effect was instantaneous and dramatic. Nyx's cosmic form flickered, contracting, stars dimming across her body as the possibility Naruto selected, that her power had limitations, became real. She shrieked in outrage, the sound shaking the dreamscape around them. What have you done? Something you didn't teach me, Naruto said grimly. I figured it out watching you. The Dream Sovereign doesn't just manipulate dreams, he defines what's possible within them. Nyx recovered quickly, adapting to her reduced state. Clever, but insufficient, she hissed, sending shards of condensed night essence hurtling toward Naruto. Sakura intercepted them, her chakra-enhanced fists shattering the projectiles. He's not fighting alone, she reminded the goddess. Shikamaru, meanwhile, had been analyzing the dreamscape, looking for patterns in how it responded to their conflict. Naruto, he called. The shadows here, they're not just darkness, they're connections. The dream realm connects through shadow as much as light. Understanding sparked in Naruto's mind. Of course, dreams existed in the shadows of consciousness, in the spaces between thoughts. Shikamaru, with his shadow techniques, was uniquely attuned to this aspect of the dream realm. Can you use them? Naruto asked, deflecting another attack from Nyx. Already on it, Shikamaru confirmed, his hands forming familiar seals but with new purpose. Shadow binding technique, dream variant. Instead of just his own shadow extending, every shadow in the dreamscape responded to Shikamaru's command, reaching toward Nyx like grasping hands. The Night Mother found herself caught in a web of her own element, shadow turned against her. Impossible, she snarled, struggling against the binding. Mortal techniques cannot affect me this way. Not in the waking world, Shikamaru agreed, sweat beading on his forehead as he maintained the technique. But you said it yourself, intent shapes reality here. And I intend for these shadows to hold you. At the great tree, Persephone's efforts were bearing fruit. Green light spread through the trunk, countering the darkness Nyx had infused into it. The bark stopped shifting with chaotic images, settling into a more stable pattern of natural growth and decay. The heart is responding. Persephone called. Naruto, it recognizes you as its rightful sovereign. It wants your guidance. Naruto looked from Nyx, temporarily restrained by Shikamaru's shadows, to the great tree. He could feel it now, a pulling sensation from deep within the massive trunk, calling to something inside him. Go, Sakura urged, moving to help Shikamaru. We'll handle Nyx. Trusting his friends, Naruto leapt toward the tree, landing beside Persephone. Up close, the patterns in the bark were hypnotic, billions of tiny dream threads woven together into a cosmic tapestry. Place your hands here, Persephone instructed, indicating a section where her green energy had created a stable opening. The heart will do the rest. As soon as Naruto's palms touched the tree, he was elsewhere, not physically moved, but his consciousness pulled into the core of the dream realm itself. He stood in a space that wasn't quite a space, surrounded by threads of light stretching in all directions. Some were bright and vibrant, others dim and fading. Each, he somehow knew, represented a dreamer somewhere across the multiverse. And at the center of it all was a pulsing orb of pure potentiality, neither light nor dark but somehow both and neither. The true heart of dreams. This is where it begins, a voice said, not Nyx or Persephone, but something older, more fundamental. And where it ends. Choice, dream sovereign. The voice came from the orb itself, Naruto realized. The heart of dreams was conscious in some way he couldn't fully comprehend. What choice, he asked, approaching the pulsing core. To preserve or transform. To maintain the separation of realms or allow the convergence. To embrace existence as it is, with all its flaws and limitations, or to reset the cosmic order. That's what Nyx wants. A reset. The Night Mother remembers what came before, the heart replied. The simplicity of potential without manifestation. She seeks to return to that state, with the Void King as her partner in unmaking. And if she succeeds, all that exists would be unmade, its energy reclaimed into pure possibility. Not destroyed, but transformed beyond recognition. Naruto thought of his friends, his village, his world, all the people living their lives, loving, fighting, dreaming their own dreams. The idea of all that being transformed beyond recognition felt profoundly wrong. I choose preservation, he said without hesitation. Life is messy and complicated and sometimes painful, but it's worth protecting exactly because of that, because people get to choose their own paths, make their own meaning. The heart pulsed brighter. A choice made from love, not fear. Worthy of the dream sovereign. The orb expanded slightly, tendrils of energy reaching toward Naruto. But know this, preservation has its price. The convergence has begun, it cannot be fully stopped. The realms will continue to move toward reunification. Then we find a balance, Naruto decided. Not complete separation, not complete merging. A way for the realms to coexist without losing their unique qualities. A new possibility, the heart acknowledged, sounding almost pleased. One not considered before. It will require a new kind of sovereign, one who bridges worlds rather than rules them. That's what I've been doing my whole life, Naruto said with sudden clarity. Bridging gaps, between people, between villages, between human and tailed beast. Yes, the heart agreed. This is why you were chosen. The Dreamstone recognized your nature. So how do I stop Nyx and this Void King? How do I protect what exists while allowing this, controlled convergence? The heart pulsed again, and Naruto felt knowledge flowing into him, not like learning facts, but like remembering something he'd always known but forgotten. Understanding bloomed in his mind about the true nature of dreams, of reality itself, of his role in the cosmic balance. The triumvirate must be completed, the heart said. But realigned. Night, dream, and death in harmony, not domination. Nyx won't agree to that, Naruto pointed out. She's committed to her plan with the Void King. Then Night must find a new embodiment, the heart stated simply. One aligned with your purpose. Before Naruto could ask what that meant, he felt himself being pulled back to his physical form. The communion with the heart ended, and he found himself still standing before the great tree, hands pressed against its bark. But something had changed. Golden energy flowed from the tree into him, and from him back into the tree, creating a circuit of power that spread throughout the dreamscape. The dream Konoha around them stabilized, becoming more solid, more real. Naruto. Hinata's voice brought him fully back to awareness. Are you alright? He turned to find his friend still holding Nyx at bay, though Shikamaru looked close to exhaustion, his shadow technique wavering. I'm fine, he assured them. Better than fine. I know what we need to do now. Nyx, still partially restrained by the shadows, laughed darkly. Whatever the heart told you changes nothing, Dream Sovereign. The convergence has progressed too far to be stopped. Even now, the final tier forms in the waking world, the doorway through which the Void King will enter. You're right about one thing, Naruto said, stepping away from the tree with new purpose. The convergence can't be stopped entirely. But it can be redirected. Drawing on the knowledge the heart had given him, Naruto reached out with his power, not attacking Nyx directly, but connecting with the dream realm itself. Golden energy spread from him in waves, strengthening the fabric of dreams, defining its boundaries. The triumvirate will be completed, he declared. But not on your terms. Impossible, Nyx snarled, finally breaking free of Shikamaru's shadows. The night has always been mine to command. Not anymore, came a new voice, familiar yet different. From the shadows stepped Hinata, but transformed. Her usual appearance was overlaid with something new, a subtle aura of darkness that wasn't threatening but protective, like the comforting dark of a starlit night. Her Byakugan eyes shone with silvery light. What is this? Nyx demanded, recoiling slightly. A new possibility, Naruto said, understanding flowing through him. The heart of dreams showed me, night doesn't have to mean void and nothingness. It can be rest, reflection, the peace between one day and the next. Hinata moved to stand beside him, the aura around her growing stronger. I've always seen in darkness, she said, her voice resonating with new power. The Byakugan doesn't fear the night, it finds truth within it. This is impossible, Nyx insisted, though uncertainty had crept into her voice. Night has been mine since before time began. And you've forgotten its true purpose, Persephone said, joining Naruto and Hinata. Night was never meant to unmake creation, but to balance it, to provide contrast to day, rest to action, dreams to reality. The three of them stood together, Naruto glowing with golden dream energy, Hinata wreathed in protective darkness studded with pinpricks of light like stars, and Persephone emanating the green essence of life and death in eternal cycle. The triumvirate stands, Naruto declared. Dream, night, and death, not to end existence, but to guide it. Not to serve the void, but to maintain the balance between something and nothing. Power surged between them, creating a resonance that spread throughout the dream realm. The dreamscape responded, stability returning to areas that had begun to unravel, dream threads reconnecting and strengthening. Nyx screamed in rage and defiance, launching herself at them with all her remaining power. You cannot take what is mine. But as she reached them, the triumvirate's combined power formed a barrier she couldn't penetrate. Nyx slammed into it and recoiled, her cosmic form destabilizing further. The dream realm has made its choice, Naruto said, not with anger but with certainty. A new Night Mother has been recognized. No, Nyx whispered, her form beginning to dissolve around the edges. No, this cannot be. The Void King will not accept this betrayal. Then let him come, Naruto said. We'll be ready. Persephone stepped forward, green energy gathering around her hands. Night Mother Nyx, you have violated the cosmic order you were sworn to uphold. By the power of the underworld, I bind your essence. Vines of green energy shot forth, wrapping around Nyx's diminishing form. The goddess struggled, but her power continued to fade as the dream realm itself withdrew its support. This isn't over, she hissed as her form contracted, compressed by Persephone's binding. The Void King comes. The final tear opens. You have won nothing but a moment's reprieve. With those ominous words, Nyx collapsed into a small orb of condensed night essence, which Persephone quickly encased in a shell of underworld energy. She is contained, the queen of the underworld announced. But not destroyed. Such primordial forces cannot be unmade, only redirected. Naruto turned to Hinata, who stood examining her transformed self with wonder. Are you okay? He asked. I didn't expect the heart to choose you as the new Night Mother. It makes a certain kind of sense, she said with a small smile. I've always been most comfortable in quiet darkness, finding my way by seeing what others miss. She flexed her fingers, watching the darkness flow around them. It feels right. Like something that was always part of me, just waiting to be acknowledged. The Byakugan bloodline must have had deeper cosmic connections than anyone realized, Kakashi observed, approaching them with Sakura and Shikamaru. The ability to see chakra networks, to perceive what's hidden, it mirrors Night's true purpose of revealing deeper truths through contrast. We can discuss cosmic bloodline theories later, Sakura interjected practically. Nyx said something about a final tear opening. If this Void King is about to make his grand entrance, shouldn't we be getting back to our world? She's right, Persephone confirmed, the orb containing Nyx's essence floating above her palm. I can sense it even from here, a massive disturbance in the barriers between realms. The void presses against the final threshold. Then let's go, Naruto said, newfound determination flowing through him. With the Heart of Dreams guidance and the triumvirate properly aligned, he finally felt ready to face whatever came next. How do we get back from here? As Dream Sovereign connected to the heart, you can create a direct path, Persephone explained. Simply will it, and the way will open. Naruto closed his eyes, focusing on his connection to the great tree, to the Heart of Dreams. He pictured the waking world, specifically, Konoha, where he sensed the disturbance centered, and willed a pathway to form. When he opened his eyes, a golden archway stood before them, showing the village through its opening. Everyone ready? He asked, looking at his friends. Shikamaru sighed dramatically. To face the cosmic embodiment of nothingness that wants to unmake reality? Sure, why not? Just another troublesome Tuesday. Actually, I think it's Wednesday now, Kakashi noted helpfully. Let's go save the world, Sakura said, cracking her knuckles. Again. Hinata stepped up beside Naruto, her new aura of night essence flowing around her like a protective cloak. Together, she said simply. Naruto nodded, taking her hand. Together. As one, they stepped through the gateway back to the waking world, and into the final confrontation for the fate of all existence. They emerged atop the Hokage monument to find Konoha in chaos. An enormous tear hung in the sky above the village, not just a rip in reality like the previous incursions, but a vast, yawning chasm that seemed to consume light itself. The edges pulsed with negative energy, sending shockwaves that distorted the air and ground. From within the tear, something was emerging, something that defied comprehension. It appeared first as simply deeper darkness, then as a vaguely humanoid shape composed of what looked like condensed void. Where features should be, there were only absences, places where existence itself seemed to stop. The Void King, Persephone breathed, awe and fear mingling in her voice. It's really him. Around the village, smaller tiers had opened, spewing forth void walkers and nightmare creatures in unprecedented numbers. Konoha's defenders fought valiantly, but they were clearly overwhelmed. We need to close that main tear, Naruto said, assessing the situation quickly. The smaller ones will follow. How? Sakura asked. It's massive. The triumvirate, Persephone answered. With the proper alignment, we can seal even this breach. Hinata nodded, night essence flowing more strongly around her as she embraced her new role. I can feel it, how the tears connect, how they can be mended. Then let's do this, Naruto said. Sakura, Kakashi, Shikamaru, help the village defenders. Keep the void creatures contained while we deal with the main tear. His friends nodded, immediately leaping down toward the village to join the battle. Naruto turned to Hinata and Persephone. Ready to make cosmic history? I still can't believe this is happening, Hinata admitted with a small smile. A few days ago my biggest concern was planning the Hyuga clan's seasonal ceremony. Life comes at you fast, Naruto agreed with a grin. Especially when you're friends with me. Persephone watched their exchange with something like fascination. The ease with which you face cosmic calamity is refreshing. Most beings would be paralyzed with fear. We've had practice, Naruto said simply. Then, more seriously, how do we do this? Join your powers as before, Persephone instructed. But this time, focus on the tear itself. As Dream Sovereign, you define what's possible, as Night Mother, Hinata establishes boundaries, as Queen of the Underworld, I maintain the cycle of transformation. They moved to the edge of the monument, facing the massive tear directly. The Void King had emerged further, its impossible form now half visible in the mortal world. Where it touched the air, reality itself seemed to wither and contract. Naruto reached out, taking Hinata's hand on his left, Persephone's on his right. Power immediately began to flow between them, gold, star-flecked darkness, and vibrant green creating a circuit of energy that built upon itself, growing stronger with each passing moment. I define this tier as closable, Naruto declared, using the understanding the heart had given him. What the void has broken, we can mend. I establish the boundary between existence and non-existence, Hinata continued, her voice resonating with her new power. Night does not yield to void, but contains and defines it. I maintain the cycle of transformation, Persephone completed. Death is not an ending but a transition. The void shall not break this eternal truth. Their combined power surged outward, forming a tricolored web that expanded toward the tear. Where it touched the edges of the breach, reality began to stabilize, the fraying fabric mending itself. The Void King noticed immediately. Its formless head turned toward them, and though it had no eyes, Naruto felt it seeing them, perceiving their interference and reacting with ancient rage. Insignificant motes, it spoke, its voice not a sound but an absence of sound that somehow formed words in their minds. You cannot prevent what must be. The entity reached toward them with a limb that seemed to bend space itself, warping the air as it extended impossibly. But their combined barrier held, the triumvirate's power creating a shield the void could not penetrate. We don't have to prevent the convergence, Naruto called back. Just control it. Guide it. The realms can merge without everything being unmade. Impossible, the Void King replied. Existence is flawed. Separation is unstable. All must return to the void. Return, no, Hinata said, her quiet voice somehow carrying across the distance. But acknowledge, yes. The void has its place in the cosmic order, as contrast, as potential, as the space between. Not as the only truth. The Void King seemed to pause, as if considering her words. Then it drew back its limb and slammed it against their barrier with cosmic force. The triumvirate staggered but held their ground, their joined powers flickering but not failing. Keep going. Persephone urged. The tear responds to our efforts. She was right, the massive breach had begun to shrink at the edges, reality knitting itself back together wherever their tricolored energy touched it. Below in the village, Naruto could see his friends turning the tide against the void creatures. Sakura's massive strength shattered void walkers, while Kakashi's lightning techniques disrupted their form. Shikamaru had organized the village defenders into an effective containment strategy, using his shadow techniques to herd the creatures into kill zones. Encouraged, Naruto pushed more power into their combined effort. Golden dream energy flowed from him in waves, defining and reshaping the possibilities of the tear itself. The breach can close, he insisted with absolute certainty. Reality can heal. The convergence can happen without destruction. The Void King roared its soundless rage, pushing harder against their barrier. Nyx promised. The old compact. Night and Void together again. Night has a new guardian, Hinata replied, her power surging to match the entity's assault. One who understands its true purpose, not to end the day, but to give it meaning through contrast. Not to destroy dreams, but to provide the canvas on which they're painted. The tear continued to shrink, now only half its original size. The Void King found itself being pushed back into the gap, its form less substantial in the waking world as reality reasserted itself. You cannot banish me forever, it warned, its mental voice laced with cold fury. I am eternal. I existed before all things and shall remain when all things end. We're not trying to destroy you, Naruto explained, understanding flowing through him from his connection to the heart of dreams. Just return you to your proper place, at the edges of creation, not its center. The balance must be maintained, Persephone added. Void and existence in eternal dance, neither overwhelming the other. Their explanation seemed to further enrage the entity. It gathered what appeared to be condensed nothingness in its core, preparing for one final assault. Then I shall take what I can, it declared. If not all reality, then its heart. With shocking speed, the Void King sent a spear of absolute emptiness not toward the triumvirate, but down into Konoha, directly at the great tree that had manifested in the village center, a waking world reflection of the heart of dreams. No! Naruto shouted, realizing the entity's plan. If it couldn't unmake all reality, it would destroy the heart that connected all dreams, causing untold damage to consciousness across the multiverse. Without hesitation, Naruto broke from the triumvirate and threw himself into the path of the Void Spear, channeling every ounce of his power into a shield of golden dream essence. The two forces collided with cosmic impact. Naruto felt the Void Spear pushing against his shield, felt nothingness trying to consume his very existence. But he held firm, drawing on everything he was, ninja, Jinchuriki, friend, dream sovereign, to maintain his defense. You can't have it, he growled through gritted teeth. I won't let you. For a moment, they were locked in stalemate, Naruto's golden shield versus the Void King's spear of nothingness. Then, suddenly, Naruto felt new power flowing into him from behind. Hinata had followed him, her hand on his shoulder, night essence merging with his dream power. Not alone, she said simply. Never alone. Persephone joined them a moment later, adding her green energy to their combined defense. The triumvirate stands together, she declared. With their powers united once more, Naruto found new strength. His shield expanded, pushing back against the Void Spear, forcing it to dissipate into harmless wisps of emptiness. The Void King howled in frustration, but it was too late. The tear had shrunk to a fraction of its former size, and the entity found itself being inexorably pushed back through the opening. This is not the end, it promised as its form receded. The convergence continues. The barriers thin. I shall return. And will be waiting, Naruto replied with quiet confidence. The triumvirate will stand guard. With one final surge of their combined power, they sealed the tear completely. Reality snapped back into place with an almost audible sound, like a cosmic sigh of relief. Throughout the village, the smaller tiers closed in sequence, the void creatures dissolving as their connection to their source was severed. Exhausted but triumphant, Naruto, Hinata, and Persephone sat down heavily on the stone heads of the Hokage monument. Did we just win? Naruto asked, almost disbelieving. For now, Persephone confirmed. The Void King has been pushed back beyond the barriers. With the triumvirate properly aligned, those barriers will hold. But he was right about one thing, Hinata noted, the night essence around her now a subtle, comforting presence rather than the dramatic aura from the battle. The convergence continues. Persephone nodded. It does, but now on our terms. A gradual, controlled merging of the realms rather than a catastrophic collision. What does that mean for, well, everything? Naruto asked, watching as the village below began to recover from the attack, people emerging from shelters, shinobi regrouping. Change, Persephone said simply. But not ending. Dreams will touch the waking world more directly. The boundaries between life and death will be more permeable. Night will reveal truths long hidden. Sounds complicated, Naruto observed. Life always is, Hinata said with a small smile. That's what makes it worth protecting. As their friends joined them on the monument, Naruto felt a deep sense of rightness settle within him. The path ahead would be challenging, learning to fully control his powers, helping Hinata adjust to her new role, guiding the controlled convergence of the realms. But for the first time since finding the Dream Stone, he felt confident that they could handle whatever came. So, Sakura said as she flopped down beside them, exhausted but grinning, Dream Sovereign, huh? Does this mean you're too important to buy the first round at a Chiraku now? Naruto laughed, the sound full of relief and genuine joy. Are you kidding? If anything, this means I'm buying for everyone. A true leader indeed, Kakashi commented dryly. As they bantered, Naruto noticed Persephone watching them with a strange expression, something between wonder and envy. What? He asked the goddess. After eons of existence, she said softly, I find myself learning something new from mortals. This, camaraderie. This ability to face cosmic horror and then immediately joke about ramen. It's refreshing. That's humanity for you, Naruto said with a shrug. We're pretty good at bouncing back. Indeed, Persephone agreed. She stood, smoothing her dress of living plants. I must return to the underworld for a time. The disruptions there require my attention. But I shall return soon, the triumvirate must meet regularly to guide the convergence. What about Nyx? Hinata asked. And Morpheus? Persephone held up the small orb containing Nyx's essence. The former Night Mother will be contained in the deepest part of the underworld, where she can do no harm but might, in time, remember her true purpose. She smiled at Hinata. Meanwhile, you have much to learn about your new role. I shall help where I can. And Morpheus? Naruto pressed. With the dream realm stabilizing under your influence, his scattered essence should begin to reconstitute itself, Persephone explained. It may take time, but the dream god will return eventually. Whether as ally or continuing rival remains to be seen. With those words and a nod of farewell, Persephone stepped into a shadow and was gone, returning to her kingdom below. So, Shikamaru drawled, not to be that guy, but we just fought cosmic entities and rearranged reality itself. What exactly do we put in the mission report? Kakashi I smiled. I think, unexpected complications arose but were successfully addressed, should cover it. Works for me, Naruto agreed with a laugh. He looked down at his village, then up at the sky where the tear had been. The dream threads were visible to him now even in the waking world, billions of connections binding all conscious beings together in an intricate cosmic tapestry. As Dream Sovereign, he would help maintain those connections, guide them, protect them. It was a responsibility beyond anything he'd imagined, even when dreaming of becoming Hokage. But looking at his friends, feeling Hinata's presence beside him as the new Night Mother, sensing Persephone's continuing connection through the triumvirate, he knew he wouldn't face it alone. So what happens now? Sakura asked as they began making their way down from the monument toward the village. Naruto grinned, the future opening before him like an unwritten dream full of possibilities. Now. We live. We dream. We protect what matters. He took Hinata's hand, feeling night and dream energies intertwining naturally. Together. 3 months later, Naruto stood atop the Hokage Tower, watching the sunset give way to Hinata's domain. As darkness fell, he could see the dream threads growing more visible, connecting the sleeping minds of villagers to the vast tapestry that spanned existence. The convergence continued as predicted, gradual, controlled, guided by the triumvirate that met regularly at the great dream tree that had become a permanent fixture in the village center. Dreams occasionally manifested in the waking world, visible to everyone as shimmering apparitions that dissolved with morning light. The boundaries between the underworld and the land of the living thinned during certain phases of the moon, allowing brief, bittersweet reunions with those who had passed on. People adapted, as they always did. New protocols were established, new jutsu developed to address the changing nature of reality. Life continued, different but undiminished. Deep thoughts? Hinata asked, materializing beside him in a swirl of gentle darkness. As Night Mother, she could travel through shadows now, moving between realms with elegant ease. Just appreciating the view, Naruto replied, putting his arm around her. How was the underworld? Persephone sends her regards, Hinata said. The souls are settling into the new arrangements. Some even enjoy being able to occasionally visit their dreams. Naruto nodded, pleased. The triumvirate's work was progressing well, the 3 realms finding a new balance that preserved their unique qualities while allowing healthy interaction. Any word from Morpheus? He asked. Still reforming, Hinata reported. But Persephone thinks he'll be conscious again within a few months. She's keeping an eye on him. A comfortable silence fell between them as they watched night fully claim the sky. Stars winked into existence, and Naruto could see how they mirrored the patterns of dream threads below, as above, so below, all part of the same cosmic design. Do you ever miss it? Hinata asked suddenly. Normal life. Before all this? Naruto considered the question seriously. Sometimes, he admitted. But then I remember that nothing about my life was ever really normal to begin with. He smiled at her. And I wouldn't trade what we have now for anything. She returned his smile, night essence briefly flaring around her like a halo of stars. Neither would I. Though I'm still getting used to the whole cosmic entity aspect. You're doing amazing, he assured her. The night has never been so beautiful or so kind. A call from below interrupted their moment, Sakura waving up at them from the street. Hey, Dream Sovereign. Night Mother. Ramen waits for no one, not even cosmic entities. Let's go. Naruto laughed, the sound full and unrestrained. Coming, he called back. To Hinata, he said, shall we join them like normal people, or make an entrance? Her eyes twinkled with mischievous starlight. When have you ever chosen the subtle approach? Grinning, Naruto gathered his dream essence around them both, forming golden wings that glowed against the night sky. With a leap that defied gravity, they soared down to join their waiting friends, the Dream Sovereign and the Night Mother, still very much Naruto and Hinata at heart. As they landed to cheers and good-natured teasing, Naruto felt a deep contentment settle within him. The Dream Stone had changed everything, thrust him into a role of cosmic significance that still sometimes boggled his mind. But here, with these people, he remained grounded in what truly mattered. Dreams, night, life, death, all were part of the same great tapestry, connected by bonds of love and friendship that transcended even the cosmic order itself. And as long as those bonds remained strong, Naruto knew that whatever challenges the future held, they would face them the same way they'd always faced adversity, together. The end. Thank you for watching this video. Please be sure to subscribe to our channel and like this video.